Going to open up tonight's Conservation Commission hearings for Thursday, February 15th, 2024. Tonight we are meeting in the Papaneset Meeting Room, Mashpee Town Hall, 16 Great Neck Road North. This is a joint meeting via Zoom as well. Before I do begin tonight's meeting, if you would like to join me in a pledge of allegiance, it's over here in the back. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm going to start with a moment of silence in memory of the victims of the tragic shooting yesterday at that Super Bowl parade. Thank you. Okay, before we do start on our agenda items, the first thing on my list is for public comment. This would be for any issues that are not related to the agenda items that we have listed for tonight's meeting. So if there's anyone either online or in the audience here that wants to address the commission, this would be the time.
We do.
Yes.
Should we just sit here?
If you'd like, or you can stand, or you can come up here, it's your pleasure. But before you begin, if I can have your name and address for the record, and then we'll hear what you have to say.
Tim Gilday, 1 Keeling Way. John Malloy, Waiting Place Road.
Okay, who's first?
Well, I think we're really together on this one.
Sure.
Tim, why don't you introduce
Sure.
yourself?
My name is Tim Gilday. I represent Papaneset Beach Association. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. Secondly, I want to thank the Concom for the support they've given our homeowners association over the years. I see Drew there and other members who have always helped us navigate the regulations and explain how things work, and we value that relationship with Concom. So thank you for all your work. I have a brief letter.
Why don't I introduce myself here? I'm John Malloy. Spent a number of years on the board of PBA, but about 12 years ago, got involved with St. Papaneset Bay. I've been on the board since then. Worked very closely with Drew, I guess, literally for the last 10 or 12 years. I lead the effort to kind of work with the regulators, working with this whole group, work with the town. I've worked with really every part of town for the last 10 or 12 years, and it's been a great partnership. Worked with Marjorie, she's an advisor to our board. And, over that period of time, we've had some great success, certainly with this bit. And certainly with the support of the Conservation Commission. I mean, you guys, your team has been great to work with. We've raised, I think it's over around $5 million from the community. We rebuilt a good portion of the spit, the dunes. We have a longer, wider, deeper channel project, which you may read in the paper about, and certainly Drew has been very helpful with that. But that project is something we're about 10 years into the permitting of that. We filed permits about 5 years ago. Sadly, I had to call Drew the other day and say our 5-year renewal is up, and we're still waiting for permits from the DEP and the Army Corps. So I don't think we ever knew how much fun we were going to get into to permit longer, wider, deeper, but the longer, wider, deeper project is certainly something I'm happy to come back and give you a nice overview on. But bottom line is it, in addition to expanding the channel, the approach channel, it generates over 40,000 yards of sand. That sand is going to be used to expand the beaches on this bit. What we've found over the years is we've spent a lot of money building the spine, building the dune, building the infrastructure needed, but what it really needs to last a long time is the beach. And now longer, wider, deeper permanent process looks to really generate 40,000 yards plus to build that beach. So it's certainly the linchpin in making that whole effort work. And I was on the phone today with our favorite state representative's office and probably to me and our master and asking them for help to get the Army Corps permits freed up. So it's been quite a process. The town's been fantastic to work with through. It's been instrumental in helping us get there. So, you know, my experience in when we work with the town has been great. Recently there was some discussion around raising your place, and we had an opportunity to meet with the planning board and ask them to work with the Papaneset community on structuring, raising, replace, and educate the community. And we actually formed a citizens committee in Papaneset to do that, to work with the town. And really the goal for that group is to help educate the community, work with the town, create a group of folks that really are committed to being productive and interfacing with you all and trying to move a lot of things forward. Because I think what we found, certainly what we've heard from many in town, is nobody comes to the meetings. Everybody's just so busy. I know you see it. So we're trying to fix that and actually create a body, a team that really interacts more with the town. Because just from my experience, it just works obviously so much better than we do. But, so not just steal Tim's thunder, but we've got a lot of, and I'm not, but there's a lot of history here, and I go to this very closely with the town for years. So.
Good thing you got your name in there before he jumped in.
That's okay. I have a brief letter I'd like to read off. Letter from PBA, Papaneset Beach Association, to the Mashpee Conservation Commission. It has been brought to our attention that the Mashpee Conservation Commission is considering making several significant changes to Regulation 25. Land subject to flooding or inundation by coastal flowage. PBA also understands the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection has proposed regulatory changes that are currently under review via a multi-month public process with comments due March 1, 2024. As you are aware, Papaneset is a community of close to 600 homes, with most of those located within the 100-year floodplain. The changes contemplated by the Mass DEP and Mashpee Conservation Commission may have significant impact on our community. Tonight, PBA is asking two things. One, that the Conservation Commission Department actively engage with Papaneset community regarding Regulation 25 to help educate the community, solicit homeowner feedback, discuss potential solutions, and incorporate that feedback. We believe the community needs to be included in the process, not just limited to speaking after the rules are drafted. Two, that the Conservation Commission consider letting the DEP regulatory process run its course before finalizing Regulation 25. Let us see what the state regulators determine to be the best course of action moving forward. Thank you for your consideration, PBA board.
Do you have a copy of that?
I do, sir.
I would like to have a copy of that if I could.
I think one of the challenges that we identified, and I think Tim and I are well aware of the issues surrounding McMansions and totally understand a lot of the opposition to that, and that's not why we're here. I think, as I said to the planning board a couple of months back, Papaneset's a pretty unique community. And my wife's family's been part of Papaneset since the 40s, and I guess my wife and I bought our first little house in the 80s. But you know, it's made up of close to 600 houses, but a lot of them are small cottages. My sister's cottage is 624 square feet. She's got bad knees. She can't walk upstairs. She wants to do something with her house, but she can't afford to do anything there. So when the planning board came out and said, we're not going to let anybody expand their footprints, it was like, you know, everybody with their hair on fire. You know, it's just a very different kind of neighborhood. And as I said, I understand the McMansions, but there's a lot of people that aren't trying to build McMansions, don't want to build McMansions, but need to be able to do something in their house. So I think, you know, as I've got more into this, several folks in the community asked me to kind of take a look at some of this and help them understand what was going on. So I said, sure. And working with the town so closely, I started asking, you know, friends in town, and people started explaining things. And I think, you know, you have this substantial improvement issue where you can't spend more than 50% of the house's value. When you look at a lot of these cottages, you know, they're worth $100,000 at the most, or something like that. So, you know, they can only spend $50,000 to do something, which means they can't really do anything. So they can't fix their house, they want to live in it. I know a number of people who want a first floor bedroom now because they're getting old. Our community, I would say, maybe back in the eighties, when I started coming here and before, you know, there were a lot of younger people who bought cottages and families, kids and all that. You don't see a lot of that today, right? Because we all know what property values it's not. So what you see an awful lot of now is people who want to retire, people where they've saved, like me, some of my family, you know, bought something, they saved 20, 30, 40 years, and now they want to retire. Well, you can't retire in the house they have. And I don't think any of us want people trying to live in 80-year-old cottage, you know, 20 years from now. So that it's, how do we figure out a path where people can do something with their house so they don't just lose a lot of the value and end up with winners and losers, because there's going to be a lot of losers. And unfortunately, what I found is I've had 10 neighbors call me in the last 2 weeks and say, "My floodplain." I'll look up on the FEMA site, yes, no, and 8 or 9 were yes, 1 was no. Most people didn't even know they were in it. And some of the people that were told they weren't, like my brother-in-law, for 30 years, he had a mortgage. He's in it. So like, I don't know what happened, but you're in it. You can't be any more in it than you are. So there's a lot of misinformation. A lot of people don't understand the situation. But people have called me just, like, they just can't believe that they come to the community for all these years. Unfortunately, 2/3 of the community shows up in June, stays till September, or comes on weekends. But you know, it's a very it's a different kind of community versus other parts of town, and I understand that. So we have a real challenge, and we're here because an awful lot of people are going to get hurt. And it's not the big McMansions, it's just regular old people that want to do something with a house, they want to retire there, they want to sell their house and come down here, live here, and they're not going to be able to do anything. And that substantial improvement will kill them, because then they can't do anything to their house. Without tearing it down, then you get into raising the place, and then it just snowballs. So it's quite a conundrum, so I think, which is one of the reasons why we formed the Citizens Committee in Pompanesett, which is not technically part of PBA, but it's supported by PBA. Because we know we really need to engage with the town, we need to work with planning. And we actually have agreed with Evan that we're gonna work with him on raise and replace lanes, which we're setting up. We're planning 3 community calls, meetings over the next couple of months to try and educate them. Ultimately, we'd love to have Drew and Evan, you know, join some meetings and try to educate them. The reality is people don't really show up in person until May, June, for the most part. So what we've talked to planning is about what do we do, and we want to transition, and then I'll go get everybody in the room. And with Evan, and hopefully Drew, but talk about some of this stuff. But I think what the community would like to do is obviously engage with everybody. Let's figure out, let's really understand what the issues are. Besides the McMansions, there's gotta be other ones. But how can we work together? How can we come up with something that people can live with? Because I think right now they can't live with it just being told no. I understand if DEP comes in and does what they do, that's gonna be terrible for the community. But we would ask you, as Tim said, to hold off. Obviously, there's hundreds of consultants and advisors and politicians, and there's lots of people involved in the DEP process, but it's something that's been vetted for years. And we think it makes a lot of sense to see what they come up with. And there certainly would give, I think, you a lot more support too, if that process kind of played out that way. But we're really kind of seriously asking you to work with us, help us educate our folks. I mean, when people don't even know they're in a floodplain, it's pretty basic stuff, but I can see why. And I had asked townsfolk to help me understand the FEMA maps so I could figure it out. But so that's why we're here.
Okay, well, thank you for your comments. We'll take the comments and we advise them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. If you don't know, of course, I'm prejudiced, and I'll probably have to recuse myself at some point, but this group and these folks, all volunteers, like 100% volunteers, they've done so much for all of us. You may not even know it, with waterfront, beachfront, and all that good stuff. So thanks for hearing them out. Thank you so much for taking your time to come.
Thank you.
We'll move on then to our, agenda item, pre and post agenda item. I'd like to have Sarah Thornburg introduce herself, and if you would like to come up to tell us a little bit about your background and your interest in joining the commission. We'd love to hear that. Well, you can stay right there. It's your
Yeah,
choice.
I'd be happy to move to
Sure.
one of the hot seats. That's easier. The interrogations. Well, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Thornblue. I live at 41 Coombs Lane, right down the street, just a couple minutes, and thank you all for your time and opportunity to be considered for one of the open seats on the Conservation Commission. My husband and I moved here in 2020. Since we had 2 kiddos, I have a daughter that's just 2 and another daughter that's 5 months. So I don't sleep a lot, but I'm very committed to their future and being in this community. We're very grateful to be here. We tend to be for a long time, and very active in conservation. So my educational background is in natural resource management. I've got an undergraduate degree in environmental science. I've got a graduate degree in informal science education and sustainable natural resource management. And I'm currently very slowly chipping away at another master's degree in ecological restoration, one class at a time. So maybe by the time my kids are in high school,
I was just about to say.
master's, but it's a really cool program. And I'm focusing my studies on wetlands in particular, some projects going on in the area with former colleagues of mine to transition retired cranberry bogs into wetlands that can be used to help with some of the substantial water quality issues in the Big Cod. And when we moved here in 2020, I told my husband, Casey, I want to be on the Conservation Commission at some point. And I started looking into it and saw there was an open seat. So this is a little sooner than I thought, but very glad to have the opportunity to be here. In Massachusetts, I moved here, my family's from New Mexico. My husband's family moved here. And since moving here about a decade ago, I've worked for the DCR. I was an enforcement ranger for Bureau of Ranger Services at a couple of state parks. I've worked for the USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service Office as conservation planner. I worked with a nonprofit over in Western Massachusetts called the Connecticut River Conservancy. And I did a lot of their education work and managed their community engagement program. And I currently work full-time from home for a nonprofit called Green Latinos. It's very much in the conservation sector, but we focus more on environmental justice, climate action. I run the membership program and community engagement. I also volunteer very actively with a group called Latino Outdoors. I'm part of the Western Massachusetts region. We focus a lot on equitable nature access, lifting up the voices of communities of color and making sure that everybody has access to natural spaces and is informed about how to sustain them for ourselves and our kids and generations to come. Very interested in conservation. I've done some work directly project-based with conservation commissions and conservation districts. And so I've got some kind of peripheral knowledge of, the CMRs that are, governing kind of what you all are doing here. I'm learning more about the town bylaws. Been doing some reading this week. Really interested to hear about some of the articles that these gentlemen were talking about, that news to me. So I'm very interested in what's happening here, and here to answer any questions that would be helpful to you in considering whether or not I'm a good fit. I will be fully transparent. I am a little concerned about the time constraints. One of the trade-offs for being able to work from home is I do have to travel out of state 3 to 4 times a year. And my job, my husband also works from home for an organization that requires him to travel 6 to 7 times, and we pack up the car and we travel with the kids like crazy people. So we're on the road a little bit. It generally takes us about a week and a half to go through a business trip and get back. I'm always available for a Zoom call though. I spend most of my day on Zoom, for better or for worse. I'm very familiar with that. But just want to be transparent about my availability to be here every 2 weeks. So,
Well, thank you.
absolutely.
Let me go right around with the commissioners and see what kind of questions they might have. You see, you are in that hot seat.
Oh, yes, ready.
Steve, I think I'll start with you.
Okay, nice to meet you, sir. what's your experience in reading plans and understanding, some of the regulations and the details that, consultants when they bring in a plan, detailed plan?
Sure, I think a lot of my experience is interpreting maps. And then the regulations themselves in terms of architectural plans, that would be a learning curve for me. But I'm very quick to ask questions and
Okay, how about site plans with all the details? of the plan?
yes, yeah, more for natural resource management than actual building projects. So that would be new for me, but I will say as a homeowner here in Mashpee, I've learned quite a bit about all the things you need to know and do and fix. And the plans that. Thank you.
Sandy?
Back to your availability. Would, site visits are a big component of this position. Would that be something that you could do, perhaps even if it just had to be on the weekends? Or
Absolutely, yes, my schedule's pretty flexible. I'm very fortunate in that regard. If I'm in town and I have childcare, I would be able to go out during a work day. Weekends are always. Yes.
Also, I don't know, I wonder how much you are aware of the new revisions to be made to the Mass DEP. Have you encountered any of that in your current work?
I have not, no, the nonprofit I work for now is a national group, and I'm part of the operations team, so we do things at kind of a 30,000 foot level when it comes to environmental policy. Yeah. Okay. I'd also be happy to bring my baby up strapped on and go outside all the time, so that's appropriate at the site visit. That's fine. Fun job here.
Aaron?
Actually, my question is regarding plans as well, so I think things to be.
You're good.
Mashpee?
Well, I just want to know if your baby strapped on the back would constitute two members. We could have a backup.
If she could get a vote, that would be pretty cool.
Sarah, it's great to have you here and with everything else that you've got going on. It seems as though that's a common thread around people who are busy, other ones that want to get involved and be busy. So thank you just for that. I'd be curious, how long have you been in Mashpee now?
We've been here since October 2020.
2020. So just from being around town and your very impressive background in conservation, do you have an opinion as to what is the burning issue that we should have got to by now and you'd like to be involved in moving forward?
I think the townwide sewer system is about 20 years of it. Yeah, I think the water quality issues are just profound and really disappointing given the resources here.
Isn't it?
It seems really.
Not supposed to go,
Yeah,
I feel.
I understand it's very complicated, but yeah, I think the quality of the water is just pretty deplorable, especially the ponds and some of the algal blooms that are
Isn't it?
happening.
I
Just
know.
how it's reducing access and how that interfaces with recreation. Some of the tourist dollars. It's a very complicated issue, but I think for my money, it's the water.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And I know the soil through everything. We farm out a whole front yard and the soil is just beach sand. It doesn't have any water at all, so everything just goes straight through. We spent the last 3 years building it up to sheet mulching.
Wow.
Trying to keep some of it.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yes.
I pass it to you, sir.
I'm just excited that you came forward as another young mom. I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, so I can appreciate it a lot. And I'm just happy to have other people stepping forward.
Okay. You might have found somebody who's more busy than you are.
Possibly.
Oh, boy.
That would be hard, huh?
Just a quick question, Sarah. I noticed on your letter, you had mentioned previously working for Mass Association of Conservation Districts.
Yes.
That's not Conservation Commission, it's something different.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So that was an interesting contract position that was with the Natural Resource Conservation Field Offices out in Western Massachusetts. And they had representatives from the agricultural community that from the Conservation District. And they are by county all throughout the state. And it has a lot to do with land use and agriculture preservation restrictions and things that NRCS was doing. So I was their liaison between the NRCS field office and I was on a grant that was focused on a lot of outreach as well. We were on the Long Island Sound Futures Fund, if you're familiar with, so a lot of water quality issues in the upper Connecticut River, making it down into the Long Island Sound, and so everything was having to do with water quality there as well. Very different. There was a lot of teaching people about what that meant for how they changed the way they are doing it. So,
The reason I asked that question, the Mass Association of Conservation Commissions, they have a program called Fundamentals of Conservation Commissioners. And it's a multi-part series which takes what we call a new member and brings them up to speed on everything that we do, you know, from hearings to regulations, to site visits. And my question would be, not to put another thing on your plate, would you be willing to take that program? The town pays the fees for it, the tuition and so forth. It would require some time to donate, and I believe it's all online at this stage of the
Yeah, it
game.
is.
Except for one class that I couldn't finish because it was in person
Yeah.
at conference, you know.
That was the only one I didn't do.
Yeah, I know.
But this close.
I don't really, if it's online, that makes things so much easier. I can
Sure.
chip away at it.
It sounds wonderful.
So, yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Drew, I'm gonna pass it to you if you have any questions that you would like to ask.
I don't have any specific questions, but just to tell you, we'll make ourselves available to you. If you have any questions or if you have, if you need any information, I think I sent you some stuff to kind of get you acclimated and, what to expect as far as how meetings will run and things like that, but we've got a lot of resource areas and what Paul mentioned about MACC is a really, an organization that's really dedicated to Concom throughout the state. And so they offer, year-round training, certification, seminars, and the website itself. There's discussion forums where you can share and exchange ideas, and they're a resource for Concoms everywhere. So it's a very invaluable resource. And as a member of the Concom, whether you're a part-time or full-time member, you're automatically enrolled as a member of MACC and courses. So when you're a member, you get a membership discount to any courses. And so the way it works is depending on what courses you choose and the timing, we can either pay for it in advance, or if it's a last minute decision, you get reimbursed for that. So there's a number of resources, and we always highly encourage commissioners, who aren't completely familiar with the workings of the Wetlands Protection Act to take advantage of MACC. They really are a great organization. So, and so we're here at your disposal for questions. And I guess the only question remains, and this is obviously entirely up to you, is what sort of status you're looking for with the Concom, if you want to be an associate or a full-time member. So that's you don't have to give an answer now, but if you're ready to give one, that's fine too. But just ultimately, we'll need to know your status as far as which position you wish to take. If you decide to be an associate member, you always have the option to move into a full-time status as long as a seat is available. And the main difference between a full-time membership and associate membership is associate members are expected to attend at least 50% of the meetings in an annual year. Full-time members are expected to attend every meeting, and we always ask that if you can't attend a meeting, give us as much advance notice as possible, because if we can't get a quorum of commissioners, we can't hold a meeting. So the more advance notice, the better.
Are the meetings ever made available via Zoom, or is this just for the presentations?
No, they're always Zoom, at least, I don't know if there's a cutoff.
We're good until, I believe it's March or May of 2025. The governor's extended Zoom on
Yeah.
the meetings.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have it as a permanent feature.
Yeah,
Because it's the
great.
convenience of it is really,
Sure.
And if you're semi-claustrophobic, it's not always going to be in a room this small.
I've heard, yeah, this, I don't think it's true.
It's a test, Sarah, it's a test. Sure.
Okay, Dan, did you have anything?
Nope.
to add?
Everything was pretty much covered. I'm good.
Okay. So Sarah, you have to follow the select board policies, policy 001,
Okay,
where you would come in for what you just did, an interview. All of the commissioners will fill out an evaluation form and make a recommendation. We'll discuss that amongst ourselves, and then I'll entertain a motion for a vote to recommend you for a position on the commission. You would then appear before the select board. They probably would ask you a few questions as well, and ultimately, it's the select board that makes the appointment, not us. So what we'll do later on in this meeting, they'll look at their evaluation forms, we'll get that squared away. My guess is that we probably would do that vote maybe in our next meeting,
okay.
so give us a little bit of time
Sure.
to fill out the forms, make sure we get that all right. And, so other than that, I don't know what else, unless you have a question.
Yes.
That you would like to ask us.
Question, I think if you all feel that I would be able to meet the expectations of the full-time seat, I'd be the one interested in pursuing.
Okay, given the Zoom option, if you want.
Absolutely, yes, and we know the dates of our travel. So I think that's awesome. So-
We had a commissioner in the past that was driving his car with the phone on Zoom.
Oh,
In our meeting.
oh, yeah, yes,
So,
done that before.
That's something to be doing, but,
No, it's not a great idea.
okay, well, thank you. We really appreciate you sticking around and.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Yeah, very much.
Welcome to stay as long as you'd like. or
Oh,
as
thank you.
as you like.
Thank you very much.
I mean, it's good.
I will get out of the hot seat. I realize. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Move on to the hearings. It took a little bit longer than. I thought, but
That's great. I'm glad I was here for them.
I'm going to call the 6:30 hearing for 48 Greenwood Road, Daniel Marsters and Joyce Marsters. This is a proposed placement of fill and retaining walls along property perimeter to bring property to just above the elevation of the adjacent roadway, which is Greenwood Road. This work is proposed as preparation for a planned raise and rebuild of an existing single-family residence and installation of a new septic system. Representative is Marsh Matters, owner of record Joyce A. Marsters, trustee, Greenwood Trust. This hearing is continued from October 5th, November 2nd, December 7th of 2023. It's a notice of intent, it file number 433255. And we do have a request for continuance for this meeting to March 21st at 6:33 to allow time for the applicant to address regulation 25, subject to coastal storm flowage, section 7 setbacks, and minor plan modifications. So I would accept a motion for the continuance.
So moved.
Thank you, Steve.
Yes.
Thank you, Alex. The motion is made and seconded on the table for a discussion amongst commissioners only.
The only thing I want to add is there enough time for them to get us something?
According to them, it is.
I mean, has it been enough time according to them since like 11:02?
I don't know.
Like, are they saying every time that they'll get us something on the next date that they ask for?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm here, Mark Gibbs here. I'll just say, Michael, Marshmallow Environmental, Cape and Islands engineer, Mark Gibbs here. He and I are gonna be working on this project together going forward. Pete McEntee, engineering works, who have done the septic design. Will be providing technical advice as needed, but Cape and Islands engineering kind of steering the boat from an engineering and design viewpoint. So in that transition, it's just, there's time needed to.
And just on March 21st is enough time for you
Yes.
guys to come forward with something?
Yes.
All right, that's my.
Thank you. Anything else? You good? Okay, then I'll take a roll call vote. Alex?
Yes.
Steve?
Yeah.
Sandy?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So it's a unanimous decision, and that will be continued to that date anytime. Okay, I call the 6:33 hearing, 119 Daniels Island Road, Roland Bates. Proposed pier, ramp, and float with access path. Representative is DSC Group, owner of record, New Seabury Properties LLC. This hearing is continued from December 7th, 2023. Notice of intent number DEP file 433261. This hearing has also been requested to be continued to March 21st at 6:42. And for the reason for that request is revisions to the plans. So there you have it. Any questions, concerns from commissions?
Yeah, just my concern is the plan that was submitted before the continuation request. It didn't have everything on it that we requested. Hopefully the plan. Well,
Yeah, they sent an email for requesting it because they wanted time for the plans they were assessing all the trees that were gonna be near the path or on the path that needed to be cut back or removed. As well as the spot where they needed to plant more plants because there was a clearing on the bank. And they also mentioned that they're gonna be including not a house details, but a location of the house. So you have more of an idea of exactly what's going on with both the properties, because there's two properties, not just one.
Right.
So that's what they requested for. So there's more of an idea of the whole project instead of just the dock.
And there was also, from my memory, a discussion about merging the lots. Was there any?
That hasn't come up at all. They haven't mentioned that at all.
But they have they definitely ruled out one of the issues last time around was whether it was a development or a single family.
They haven't mentioned that at all. They did say the house, they were gonna put the house footprint on the plan or a location of the house. But they didn't really touch upon that at all. No.
That'll be a big house.
So we'll see. So hopefully more modest, but we'll see.
Other questions, concerns on the request? None, hearing none. Let me take the, let me get.
we made a motion.
No, it
We
didn't.
made a motion.
Nope.
Make a motion to continue the hearing for 119 Daniels Island Road to March 21st at 6:42 p.m.
I'll second.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Doug. Motion made and seconded for the continuance. Any further discussion by commissioners? Hearing none, Alex?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yes, sir.
And I vote yes as well. So that motion carries unanimously, and that will be continued to that date when as well. Moving on. Catch up with time. We might actually catch up with time. Now calling the 6:36 hearing for 14 Capstan Circle, Robert P. McDonald Jr. and Tracy A. McDonald. This is a proposed raise and replace of a single-family dwelling, associated appurtenances, a new Title V septic system, landscaping, utilities, and other associated work. Representative is Cape Islands Engineering. This is a notice of intent, DEP file number 433368. Do we have someone here to present?
Continued. So they're proposing, you are proposing.
Yes.
To us to March 21st at 6:51 p.m.
Excellent.
What was continuing this one, Joe?
Continuing, and once again, again for
March 21st. It's
I know it's a whole bunch of women's and men that are- One of the upsides to continuing, I'm sorry. We're on a roll, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry.
So we do have a request for a continuance by the applicant's representative
Yeah.
to March 21st at 6:51 p.m.
No, it's not during this meeting.
Second.
Motion by Alex, second by Marjorie.
March. Steve intimidating.
Okay, so the motion is made and seconded on the table for discussion by commissioners on this It's a request for a continuance. Any questions or concerns about the request? Hearing none? Okay. Take a roll call vote, Alex?
Yes.
Steve?
Yeah.
Sandy?
Yeah.
Karen?
Yeah.
Marjorie?
Yes, sir.
And I vote yes as well, so that motion carries unanimously. March 21st is still not, that's 6:51. Now calling the 6:39 hearing for 112 Waterline Drive South. Stephanie and Tina. Marino. Proposed construction of a new garage with 1-bedroom apartment with septic system upgrade to 5-bedroom. Representative is Mark Matters Environmental. This hearing is completed from 11/16/23 and 1/11/24. It is the notice of intent. DEP file number 433262. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Can I have your names for the record, please?
So I'm Mike Fall from Marsh Matters Environmental, I'm a consulting wetland scientist.
Stephen Manarino, 112 Waterline Drive, Gulf, Mashpee.
Thank you.
You mentioned November, it seems so long ago.
I know.
I'm like, "Yeah,
I'm
it's been that
fine,
long,"
huh?
but-
And it crawls.
That, I know. But that is the case. The original notice of intent was filed back in the middle of November. Engineering work isn't here tonight, but Steve, myself, and Pete McEntee were working on project planning, and Steve can probably explain it better, but the objective for Steve and his wife was to improve the existing house, or rather add a bedroom and a garage originally. And that would have been achieved by a standalone building with a one bedroom apartment at the top. The septic system would be upgraded to an IA system. But after that filing, and very much appreciate Drew's candid comments regarding regulatory compliance, and it was pretty clear that it was going to be a challenge to meet mitigation requirements under your regulation 25. And so we regrouped. We were trying to think, how could the project be modified to better comply with current regulations, but at the same time achieve the objectives of the property owner. So what's before you is a project that will use the existing footprint, but will put a second story on the existing house. It would be a one bedroom increase to the structure. And what this does is it eliminates the need for a standalone garage with an apartment above. So I think it's important to recognize that we are using the existing foundation. There is no expansion. It does mean that there would not be any alteration or permanent alteration to the naturally vegetated area. Again, this is a full flood zone property, so it's in an AE zone. It is not adjacent to other resource areas, so it's kind of a landlocked site. I talked to Pete earlier today, and I know Pete and Drew, you had a conversation about your general bylaws regarding adding multiple bedroom capacity to a septic system. And so what the plan in front of you is a 5-bedroom septic system, IA system. And the way I understand it, the way Pete explained it to me, is if they were to go forward with that plan for a 5-bedroom system, the reason for that being for potential future addition of another bedroom, maybe on an attached garage. That was the reason behind the 5-bedroom. But by doing that, it would have to go back and to Board of Health. It would have to go to Board of Health, and they'd have to issue a variance, I believe. Right.
Yes.
Did I explain that correctly? So, so just within the last couple of hours, Pete, Steve, and I put our heads together, and we're prepared to reduce that and provide a revised plan showing a 4-bedroom capacity size system instead of a 5. The plan for the house would remain the same, single single story added to the first story to add one bedroom. But the system itself would be an I system, but it would be 4 bedroom capacity rather than 5. Okay, so that's the only change. So that is not in front of you tonight. That plan would be provided to you, and if you were willing to approve the project, you'd certainly, obviously pending issuance of an order to be pending receipt of a revised system showing 4 bedroom capacity system rather than 5. Did that make sense? I felt like I was rambling a little.
None
bit. Steve, and I've just met Steve, but I've talked to him on the phone, and I think it's important for you to hear kind of why he's looking for extra space in this house. You want
Sure,
to
yeah.
comment?
Thank you very much. I appreciate all the time here. So it's not our primary residence. We sold our primary residence in Wayland, Mass in 21. And we're renting in Waltham. Our plan is to move here permanently. So there's 3 of us and we all work from the house. We don't, we're working remotely from the house. So we need extra space. Currently the way that this house is configured as a ranch, there really isn't enough room for 3 people to be on the phone and working as it. So we'd like to add a 4th bedroom, but we'd also like office space. So if you look at the plan, the 2nd floor, one of the rooms is set up as an office. And that's not just disguised as an office. We really do need the office. So ultimately, we'd like to have a 2-car garage. And if we weren't in the flood zone and we didn't have to worry about the 50% rule, we would have attached the garage and made it part of this plan, but we couldn't do it because the cost would have pushed us over. So, we really do need the space. And when you look at adding the 2nd floor, we didn't add a full 8-foot wall and put a roof on. We took the roof and we're putting it on where this on the 1st floor. If you look at the elevations. So we're trying to keep, the house, the actual, we talk about McMansions, we're trying to keep the house as low and small as we can. But when you have a ranch that size, and you put a 2nd floor on, it just happens to, double the size of the square footage. We looked at, working with the architect, we looked at, adding half, just putting a 2nd floor in half, nothing worked. It's just an eyesore. So we really had to go from one end to the other with the 2nd floor. We were hoping to, I started this process 2 years ago and, we got delayed with, just getting plans done. Everybody's busy, we're hoping that we can get something that works, that we can get construction going and get out of a renting and get moved to Mashpee because we really want to be part of the community.
Okay, that's all I have. Okay, so I'll go to commissioners first for any questions, concerns that you might have.
What did you say the increase was in the square footage?
It's,
Did it double?
I'm not quite sure it's doubling. It's probably somewhere around, a 90% increase. Because you're taking the ranch and putting the 2nd
And what
floor.
was the original square footage? 18 to 30.
Yeah, I think it's,
30.
like 34 or something, yeah.
Built in early 80s, I think it's.
It was in the described.
I'm all set, yeah.
Okay, so all the questions, you mentioned 50% rule because this whole problem is flood zone.
Yes.
So just looking at the plans presented.
Mhm.
You have a market value
I
on
do.
the house,
I have a appraisal here from a licensed appraiser.
right?
And the building itself, just the building came in at 775
Okay,
for the, and then our construction costs.
Yeah.
I've got, labor, part of the material. And all of these, so I'll get my construction, material plus all labor, and that's, 395.
okay.
So
So
I'm well within like 50%.
So you said it was
775,
okay, so 395 is more than,
300, no, 300, I'm sorry, 300,000.
no, okay,
395.
okay.
So
All right,
300,000.
because that was my concern is if you went over 50%, then
Yeah,
we
no.
can't rebuild.
I actually looked at this years ago and submitted a plan and it failed to 50%. Because, we're talking about flood zone. When I was listening, when I bought the house, it wasn't in the flood zone after Sandy, that. So we were hoping that as costs went up, the values went up, that we would be able to fit this in, and certainly was surprised to see that 775. So we're well within the 50%.
Okay, yeah, that was my concern because the, when it passed, that was the whole thing,
Yeah,
rebuild and that
right.
changed.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
David? No question? Karen? No question. Alex? One sec. Okay, so there isn't confusion. I know Margie was asking about square footage, but the footprint of the building is staying the same. correct?
It is, you look at the,
You wanna go to the plot plan?
well, if you look at they had the old house up there, I think there was.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one,
There you go.
Yeah, so see, there's a shaded dark area in the house, which is right now currently a patio.
Yeah.
And that's gonna become, that's the only, so it's within that same footprint.
Yeah.
We're not going outside that footprint.
And the, more of a question, I guess, for Mike. I noticed the other plan with the garage on it back in November had a leach field, but it was a straight line. This one's got this right angle bend to it. Same amount of containers that are in it, but it's got that jog to it. Is that coming out now that we're going back to 4? It's going to be a straight line configuration, smaller. I think it was 9 units.
I have to confirm with Pete on how it would change the configuration. I know we came to that configuration because we wanted to make sure as least amount of natural NBA area was gonna be disturbed, and that was the reason we put that jog in. I haven't had. Literally, it was this afternoon, we were talking about the reduction, so I didn't have the opportunity to kind of look at the plan, because I was driving at the time. I can certainly find that out. That's a good question.
Okay. A couple of other questions. What do you think for a second? I know on the drawings from the last time, and I believe you can see them as well on this drawing, if we can expand that a little bit. The patio itself appears to overlap the boundary onto town property. Right there at the bottom, it says lot 73, see that drawing? I know when I was on the side, I looked at it and I could see the limit of the work, and then I could see the boundary markers, and I thought, just from an eye point of view, that it was over, and then I discussed that with Drew before, and he says, yeah, it is, so we need to ask about that particular situation. So I'm just curious, what are we gonna do with the patio that's over that property line?
Well, we'll have to check it out.
I think we'd have to.
Oh, that was easy.
We'd have to get off the plant.
Yeah, it's not, obviously, there's nothing there. It's a buffer zone between the boat ramp.
Yeah.
There's a boat ramp that goes right by.
Yeah.
So, it could come out, but the patio isn't, we're not gonna replace it. I guess we've got to cut it off when the line is. Is it a problem keeping it there?
Well, it's on somebody else's property, so yeah, I'd say that's a problem.
Okay. All right, well, we can, I'd accommodate that, I'll take that out.
Okay. And in terms of that change and the garage change, and now the leach field has changed a little bit, and we're going from 5 bedrooms down to 4. The nitrogen calculation figures for regulation 30 are gonna be off, so we're obviously gonna need a whole new set of figures
Yeah, if you
for
mention
that.
that.
I would assume they'd be better, but I don't know, because, the runoff from the roof of the garage and the patio that's being taken out, or
Yeah.
things are changing, so it's kind of like a moving target.
Yeah, Pete, I think Pete realizes those houses would need to be updated.
That's all I have for questions.
I have a question.
I'm sorry.
If you want anything for us, yeah.
You want to wait for discussion, or do you want to do it now? Let's do it now.
So if we are looking to make some sort of determination for tonight, are the changes that we want to see? Is it enough for us to vote on them as conditions to work through with staff, or is this something that would need to be considered?
I guess once the motion is made, in our deliberations, our discussion of that motion before we vote, I think it would be probably the most appropriate time to address that. Something else might come out as a result of what Drew has to say, or Dan, or the public, so we're still kind of
And I'll just
exploring things.
I'll just touch upon that a little. So when it comes down to it now, what happens is, we'll give you this 21 days, obviously, to issue any determination. Whatever the determination with 21 days. So if we don't get any revisions within, say, 10, 15 days, we then will still issue the order of conditions because we want to stay within 21-day window. And there will be the very first condition on it will be you have to submit all these new plans before anything. And that's right from that point, it's written in stone.
Okay.
So.
It's a good question because we've been caught, you know.
Yeah.
On the clock, so to speak, by a different engineer. That will never happen again, period.
And who shall be named nameless?
Yeah. Faceless, nameless, and disgraceless. Any other questions before I go to the public? Are there any questions from anyone in the audience, online? That was easy. Yes. Drew, are there any other comments that you would like to make?
No, I
We
think
talked a lot about
everything,
this today.
yeah.
But they haven't heard it.
Just a comment that if the commission were to render a decision tonight, we would be fine with, accepting the revised plan. It's as described for a 4-bedroom system. And then obviously we would work with you to deal with the patio situation. That in compliance, I wouldn't want that to hold up this, but at the same time, it should be dealt with.
It's pretty easy.
Sooner than later, I would imagine it's pretty easy to do, so, yeah.
Okay. All right, then. No further questions. I would accept the motion.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion. For,
Nervous and that, but I mistakenly said.
yes.
Ignore that.
Yeah. Make a motion for, close an issue for notice and temp off for 112 Waterline Drive South. One condition I'd like to add in is if any other changes from a town department or other board in town that they come back either for amended order conditions or changes before the 21-day period. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
We're all just a little bit annoyed by that.
Sorry.
So the conditions would also be the revised plans with the 4-bedroom septic
yeah, and revised plans for 4-bedroom septic and the patio removed.
and
the
figures for
reg-
regulation 40.
30.
What was that last thing? What was that one?
So we have,
The night couch.
yeah, the reg 30 nitrogen calculations.
So you got other changes from boards.
Or
conditions in
a
boards,
town department.
other departments. You've got the patio, you've got the nitrogen figures,
Yeah, and the revised.
the revised. Septic layout.
Yeah. If that covers everything.
I believe so.
I will second that.
Second by Alex. All right, so the motion is made and
And that's
seconded.
those are conditions.
Right.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
those are conditions on the order.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion is made and seconded, and up for discussion amongst commissioners. This would be a big turnaround.
No, I think it all kind of fleshed out. Yeah, I was just making sure that if we dealt with.
Okay. Steve, when you mentioned other changes from other boards.
Yeah.
Town departments. The reason I was kind of looking up at the ceiling was thinking, do we have an application to the ZBA for the raise and replace?
This isn't a great from the public.
Not
But
really.
isn't that what's gonna happen?
No.
No.
They just got,
So it's just the septic. No construction's taking place in the house.
Well, it's not, it's the whole second floor.
It's less than 50%, it's not.
Basically, the roof's coming off and the new roof's going on.
Okay, so the ZBA wouldn't be.
so ZBA's out, they will obviously still need building permits. But
Yeah.
The ZBA, right.
But I just covered myself for department or board in case something else changes that we're not aware of.
Yeah,
We covered that way.
yeah.
Good job.
It's
Okay, and
it's pretty busy today with change.
Yeah.
I know that.
In all honesty, that's one of the reasons I did that, and nothing against your figures. My client's opinion, that figure is low, definitely 100,000 is low.
Okay, well, I can back it up.
No,
Yeah.
but I just, in case the building commission doesn't take it for some reason, you have to come back,
Sure,
please cover it on our end, that's all.
and I do have a buffer too. I mean, that's still.
Yeah, I can't contest the number, just, I just wanted to.
Sure.
Just covering that base.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns before I call for a vote?
I like you doing this.
You good? Okay, roll call vote, Alex?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
And I do.
Yes,
And I vote yes as well. Motion passes.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Sorry it took
good,
so
good,
long.
good. You didn't. do
Should have
it.
left last minute correspondence.
Oh, that's all.
I'm so excited, we actually dealt with it. See, this is what happens when the homeowner comes and sits and takes.
Yeah, and you knew your stuff, that was helpful.
He thinks they're dead.
Have a good night.
Yeah, take care.
It's in like, it's a Holly family, but it's everything with ILS.
That was a good resolution, I did vote out.
Thanks, okay.
Yeah.
We have.
Let me move on. 6:42.
Okay, let's move on.
We've been filming.
Back on the hearing for 6:42 for 425 Monmouth Square Road, Mark H. and Lisa White, proposed raising and replacing the existing lighting. Deck, boathouse, driveway, Title 5 septic system, landscaping, and associated appurtenances. Representative is Cape Islands Engineering. This is a notice of intent, DEP file number 432269. We do have a request for a continuance to March 21st at 6:39, excuse me, to allow time for the applicant to address regulation 25 land subject to questions going forward, section 7 setbacks and minor plan modifications.
So. You said it all, I think.
I just read it.
Now, yes, unusually
So I
excited.
have a motion
Having-
and a second for that continuance.
There you go.
So with that on the table, I'll ask for a discussion from any commissioners on the request. Hearing none. I'll take a roll call vote. Alex?
Yes.
Steve?
Yeah.
Sandy?
Yeah.
Aaron?
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yes, sir.
I vote yes as well, so that passes unanimously. Another one for March 21st.
Who want to go?
I can slow it down.
No. I'm getting claustrophobic. I'm glad you're doing it.
I know.
We have a lot of work after the hearing, so don't get your hopes up.
Oh, really?
I'm now calling the 6:45 hearing for 21 Debbie Lane. Donald and Marcina Cassidy trustees, the Donald R. Cassidy Revocable Trust. This is a proposed addition of a farmer's porch and attached two-car garage to an existing single-family dwelling. Representative is Cape Islands Engineering. DEP file number on the notice of intent is 433270. This project has also been requested for continuance to March 21st at 6:30. First one up. Agent has inquired about the reason for the continuance and will provide that at our meeting. So before I ask for a motion, did we get any information on that too, or?
What was the time again?
6:30. First one on our list for the 20th.
So, yes, they are working on, ZBA filing. They haven't filed it yet, so therefore they can't come to proofs. Provide proofs of filing with ZBA. They're working.
Okay.
Does the clock start ticking then?
For what?
They're working on it.
I'm not sure what you mean.
No, you said that they have this. They've asked for the continuance, because they didn't have the proper information for the ZBA.
No,
So they need to provide proof of filing with ZBA to us in order to proceed with us, and they haven't filed with ZBA.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of time. So nothing starts ticking.
No,
No.
really, whenever they can get to it.
All right.
Okay. All right, then. Alex, you have a question? I'll accept the motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to continue 21 Debbie Lane to March 21st at 6:30 p.m.
Second.
By Sandy. Motion made and seconded for the continuance. Any discussion on that before I call for a vote? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Alex?
Yes.
Steve?
Yeah.
Katie?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yeah.
And I vote yes as well. The motion carries, so let's continue for our first hearing on that 6:30. Okay. Now calling the 6:28 hearing for 275 25th Avenue, Southwood Mashpee Property LLC. This is a proposed construction and maintenance of a 14 single-family homes with paved driveway, sidewalk, drainage systems, and associated utilities. Representative is Baxter and I Engineering and Surveying. This is continued from, here we go, 5/4, 6/15, 7/13, 9/21, and 10/19, 11/16. And those are all 2023 dates. And January 11th, 2024. This is DEP file number 333237.
Does that mean they're on their last continuance?
This.
Well, let me, yeah,
I think they are, right?
No, we'll get to a discussion on this in just a second. All right, so that's, the applicant has requested the continuance. They're asking for that to allow time for the completion of a peer review and finalizing the plans with, Mashpee's Planning Board. So now I will ask if there is any questions on the request from commissioners. None?
Do we,
Same question.
do we,
Question.
well, no, but do we expect that they'll have anything by March 21st?
Okay, here's what I can tell you. We are still waiting for our final peer review from LEC. So until we have that, we can't act on this regardless. We need to spend a lot of money. We've got a lot of time invested in this thing. I know this has gone on and on and on and on and on. Nobody knows that better than us and the planning board, because it's been a back and forth thing for a long, long time. But I think there's been a lot of progress. I know it's hard to see it, but it's there. And we're basically on hold. Planning board, I know, still has not finalized their requirements with this. We just had a hearing where the commissioner said, well, what about other commissions and boards, what if they say something? So we want to make sure that we're good to go with this thing. It's a huge project.
Yeah.
Especially the blocks, you know. Tearing those back in the wetlands is not going to be an overnight thing, so we want to make sure that we have things right on this. So I think that the request, typically it's 3 year out. Again, this has gone on and on and on, rightly so. It's a huge project. That's why we asked for, you know, the money to bring in a consultant to help us with this. And
I have a procedural question.
sure,
Can we just continue something without putting a date that we're continuing it to? If people submit an application to us, then the office schedules when it would be, and then it gets put on a notice in the paper and it gets posted everywhere. Can we continue it to a time to be determined once they have all the materials? And I mean that in general, when we have people who don't know when they'll be in, can we just continue it and they can work with the office staff to get put on the agenda?
But you have to continue to a date certain.
yeah, I see
Why?
what you're
So you have to
saying.
continue it to a date certain. You can't just have it to be determined.
Right.
That's for abutters purposes. Public notice.
And
The public has to know the date of the continuance.
Yeah, you gotta advertise.
True,
I know, but if it's getting advertised anyway, what's the difference? Is it because of like the green slips, like the one that they mail out to all the abutters when it will be?
No, it doesn't get advertised again. It gets advertised, well, I mean, abutters don't get notified over and over again with every continuance. That's just a one-time thing. They check in with the paper to see what time and date it's been continued to.
So that's right, but they'll see it when it's on the agenda,
I'm just telling you. It has to
right?
to a
It'll be
date.
on the agenda though, right?
It has to be to a date certain.
Because it would
procedurally, it would free us up a lot if we could just continue things and not have it to a date certain. So
I do understand what you're saying, and tonight's a perfect example. We've got a ton of continuances. That March 21st thing is getting
we
packed. and
for
other
a half
things.
hour, just continue.
Sure. In this particular case, it's not your typical project where it's a single lot with an engineer and an applicant.
Of
And,
course,
you
and
know,
they'll
we're-
need more time.
This is a very complicated project, and, you know, planning has really been at it and at it and at it, and I've either gone to or I've watched every single planning board meeting
Right.
so that I'd be up to speed on what we needed to do when we met, which is typically the next night. They didn't meet last night for some reason.
Yeah.
See them. So I get the reason, and I hate just kicking it to another agenda with hopes that something's gonna happen, because we don't know. And that's the bottom line, we don't know. It's kind of like, I wish I knew the Powerball number.
Like-
But we don't.
Could it, I'm curious if it could be continued, but then like notice would have to be re-noticed, have to be re-given to neighbors once a date is settled on.
No, it would just have to be posted at the town hall and in the newspaper.
Right.
I know, but what I'm,
And that's, is it
Like, I'm
10 days
wondering-
prior to the hearing? It's 10, right?
Yes, correct.
I'm just wondering if there's really any other way
Yeah.
to deal with projects like this size where it is such an unknown, whether or not we could be more proficient and say, yes, we'll continue it to a date unknown if you notice about if they provide notice to abutters and provide us with proof of that and also, when I don't get license.
I don't think they are legally obligated to do that. So that's why it has to be continued for a date certain.
But wouldn't we be setting that condition?
You can set that condition.
Okay. We could just not continue it and we could say, no, once you have everything together, come back to us.
You could tell them to withdraw if you want.
We would,
I mean, I don't really see this as just my own opinion.
right,
If they're gonna continue it, it's a short procedure to acknowledge that continuance again. It's not really a time consuming thing.
right. It's
But
just,
in my opinion, it's best to have a date certain for
right.
all things considered. I don't think there's a way to not do that.
It is a placeholder, though, that would kick another project down the
Right.
road if need be. My suggestion would be, if we look at, and I can't quote the exact section of chapter 172, but we have a section on all the protocol for filings and everything else. Perhaps we could put some language in that,
Yeah, sure, that's your,
you know?
Yeah.
And that's home rule. We'd be able to put that language in, bring it before in public hearing, and then we would have
Yeah.
a regulatory trigger to do what you're asking to do. Well, that's something we could think about.
yeah, you could put it in as a change, but in the absence of that, it has to be to a specific date.
Right.
So what is the deal though? Just for my own edification of the 3 times you're out? Is that just,
So the
Doesn't really
situation
mean
with this one
anything?
is because the commission has required this peer review. So if you're gonna hold them to 3 and out for something that you're requiring, and it takes time, I think the 3 and out rule doesn't really apply. If it's something on their end that they're not furnishing information in a timely manner, because it's absent,
yeah,
then the three strikes are out applies.
so
This is-
that's an internal procedural choice that the commission can choose
Yeah, I mean, it's,
to make?
even with the 3 continuances, there's nothing in the regs that says 3 continuances and you're out, it's your discretion. With
So we've
every-
always said that.
it's always your discretion, it doesn't say anywhere in the regs, 3 continuances and you're done, it doesn't say
No.
that. So it's ultimately your discretion.
Yeah, okay,
But the main difference between this and many other projects is that the reason for the time it's taking is because of something the commission is requiring.
yeah,
That being a peer review. So I wouldn't hold them to the number of continuances in that instance, because this is your requirement.
yeah, okay,
Okay.
yeah.
No.
Moving on.
Well, not quite yet. So I would accept the motion.
But just one of the, sorry, just a quick point of clarification, there was a typo. It's read 14 single family homes, it's actually 12. That was a mistake on it, it's actually 12.
Right, that's the original filing.
It was 14, but they reduced it by 2 units, so that's a
Right,
typo.
Are we
on it.
required to read the original filing for
Um,
the hearing? I believe we are.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Kind
Yeah,
of like the
just,
one that we just had with the garage not being there, but I read. the-
no, that's true. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think we're required to have the language the same
Okay,
when I open up the hearing.
yeah, that's fine. That's
Well,
fine.
the chair does.
Yeah,
About that if he means back or
Right.
not.
Yeah, this has been
Wow.
knocked down by 12.
yeah, because they haven't come back to us.
And ultimately,
officially
who
with
knows, it
12.
could even end up smaller.
I think it's been
Right.
mentioned as 12, but it hasn't been formally
Right,
consented as 12, so yes, yeah, I agree with that.
okay. So we're good. I can accept the motion. So we continue. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Steve is one, Aaron is two. Okay, any further discussion before I come to a vote? I'm sure, Marjorie.
I am over sure, actually.
Roll call vote, Alex.
Yes.
Steve.
Yeah.
Sandy.
Yeah.
Aaron.
Yeah.
Marjorie.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So
What time is that again?
that is at 6:45. Yeah. 21st, which actually happened at 6:45, but that's no difference.
Okay.
When we have on the 21st.
Okay. Moving right along. No, that's not bad.
No, it's not bad.
We'll call on the 6:51 hearing for 61 Shoestring Bay Road, 61 Shoestring Bay Road LLC. This is proposed construction of a single-family home with a pool, patio, garage, and driveway, including associated landscaping, hardscaping, mitigation plantings, and pathway to salt marsh. Representative is WRS Engineering LLC. Continued from January 11th,
Great.
2024.
File has it all.
This is,
I don't know why.
DEP file number, most attached, DEP file number 43326. Ladies and gentlemen,
Good evening. You may or may not remember me. My name is Adam Brodsky. I'm an environmental lawyer. My office is in Hingham. And I have appeared in the past before the commission, and I represent the applicant, 61 Shoestring Bay Road LLC. Don Bliss, who is the manager of the LLC, is sitting behind me. Roy Okarowski, our professional engineer with WRS Engineering, should be on Zoom. He's actually out of state, which is why he's not appearing in person. And you know Andrew Garrelay, our registered landscape architect with Yarmouth Court Landscape Architecture, excuse me.
There we go. You're in better position.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Thank you. You're all familiar with this lot. You're familiar with the neighborhood. There are numerous other houses that have been constructed on the same coastal bank on Shoestring Bay Road, as well as on New Swan Circle. And in fact, on this lot, there have been two prior single-family homes that were permitted. There was an order of conditions issued in 1988, and a second order of conditions issued in 2020. And in 2020, that order was approved with a general footprint for the dwelling and a requirement that the applicant come back to the commission to request an amended order to approve a specific project. And I understand that the commission has used that methodology for other projects in this particular neighborhood. In the lights upon that 2020 order of conditions, the LLC purchased the property in 2021 for $825,000. And the LLC submitted a request for amendment for a specific project in July of 2023. At that same time, the applicant consulted with the Conservation Commission staff regarding an extension of the order and was told last summer that it was unnecessary because the order had been told under the COVID agreement. That amendment was reviewed by the conservation agent and determined to include all of the specific information that was required in the 2020 order of conditions. However, the commission denied the amendment in November of 2023. As you likely know, there's no right to appeal a denial of an amendment of an order of conditions. And we also have another problem. which is that unfortunately, conservation staff was incorrect. The COVID provisions did not in fact toll the 2020 order of conditions. And so that order of conditions has lapsed. So because of those two reasons, one, we have no right of appeal or denial of our request for amendment. And two, because the 2020 order has lapsed, we were required to file a new notice of intent. The project has been changed and is different from what was previously presented to you in connection with the request for amendment. And after I'm done speaking, Roy will present the civil site plans and Andrew present the landscaping mitigation plan. We are proposing extensive mitigation and effectively maxing out the site with approximately 6,700 square feet of on-site mitigation. We can't reduce the footprint of the proposed house because of the requirements under the Willow Bend Master Deed Covenant. So the house can't be less than the dimensions provided on the site plan. And so we're proposing to alter but not destroy, and that's an important distinction, approximately 2,216 square feet of coastal bank, alter approximately 4,234 square feet between the 0 and 50-foot buffer zone, and alter approximately 157 square feet of the 50 to 100-foot buffer zone. The 100-foot buffer zone extends off the site. As such, there is no 100 to 150-foot buffer zone on the site. We assert that the project meets the performance standard under both the state act and your bylaw for work on coastal bank. Again, importantly, the project will not destroy the coastal bank. That's your performance standard. And the coastal bank will continue to serve its function for storm damage prevention and the other wetland interests under both the act and the local bylaw. And as such, we don't believe that we will require a waiver under section 172.7A.3A of the bylaw. However, if the commission does require a waiver for work on the coastal bank, we presented evidence in our submittal demonstrating that we satisfy the requirements for the grant of a waiver, and we can address that at the appropriate time. This is a previously disturbed lot with approximately 7,514 square feet of prior alteration. I'm still working through your wetland regulation 29, and I'm a little bit unclear as to how it applies to previously altered lots, and certainly the commission's been educating on that. But we're actually proposing mitigation to create a native vegetated buffer area on the site. However, we can't meet your current mitigation ratios in table 29-1 on site. And so we've anticipated that the commission may require us to provide additional offsite mitigation. And the LLC is presently negotiating with both Willow Bend and Shoestring Bay homeowners associations for access to properties to explore offsite mitigation in the form of phragmites eradication at the toe of the slope of the same coastal bank that's on Shoestring Bay below our site. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Roy, and hopefully Roy can hear us to explain the site plan and then have Andrew speak. Thank you.
Good evening, Roy Okarowski, WRS Engineering. From the previous filing, there's a much smaller dwelling. Adam kind of went through the numbers, and I'm just going to reiterate them. The dwelling itself is roughly 2,700 square feet. 1,600 feet approximately is on the coastal bank, and 1,000 feet of that is in the 50-foot buffer, and that is in the 100-foot buffer. Hardscape is around 1,960 square feet, where 332 is on the coastal bank, and then 15 coastal bank 1,500, and the 0 to 50 offset from that is 1,500, and then 57. The pool and the decking are less substantial numbers. And then going back to the plan, can you put the plan up on your on the screen for people watching? Or
It is on the screen.
It is, it's on the screen.
Oh, I just see a photograph of trees, so that's fine. So, you know, what's basically happening here since the last, meetings is we tried to pull as much of the hardscape back from a previously permitted line. And, you know, reduce the height of the walls, reduce the height of the hardscape. We added dry wells in to capture all the roof runoff. We added dry wells in to capture any pool water that might be drained. There's been extensive landscaping in every area we could possibly put it, with the exception of the front yard. That's been increased from previous filings. This plan does show, and you can see it pretty lightly. There's a tree line that runs through the pool, down along the house, and back up to the road shown in there. That was from the original filing plan, which the whole upper part of the lot, approximately 90% of all our construction was previously clear cut. And that was done in order to show the lot, and it was allowed. So, you know, what we're building is not native to the lot, except for anything that's grown back, and it's a pertinent point in this. Obviously, we can't meet the town's requirements for mitigation on this. I'll defer to Adam for any alternative mitigations that we might be looking at in the future for that. But I'm not prepared to discuss that at this point. The plan shows the 1,500-foot offsets from the salt marsh, differing from previous filings. The previous filing showed some wetland flags, and basically said edge of wetland. There is no freshwater wetland there. It's just salt marsh, coastal banks. We corrected what we feel is the correct, information for that. There's been a wildlife study done on the site. I believe that's part of the record. If not, we will submit that. And then we show the town has specific regulations for the top of the coastal bank, 1 foot beyond DEP regulations. That's what's been mapped. And then that we show the 50-foot offset, which is basically along Shoestring Bay Road, and the 100-foot offset, which is on the other side of the road. We feel we've done a good job at minimizing, what's required by Willow Bend to build a house on the site that's going to be approved by them. Took all measures to contain runoff that would cause erosion. And from there, I can answer any questions, or I'll pass it on to the landscape architect. Thank you.
Would you like Andrew to continue?
Yes, I'd like to hear everything first, and then we'll go with the questions or comments.
Thank you so much.
You can get the, and you can also basically finance the evidence. Whatever was in the file. We're gonna have to go pay for Andrew. Yeah. So. Like set up. I think they all have paper copies. Everyone has paper copies of all the plans.
Yeah, so, but everybody that was on the commission was on the commission when it was, the project that was denied before. During that hearing, there was a motion to, add more native vegetation in the form of 1,000 square feet here in the front part of the project, and also to add an extra dry well back here. That's been added to this plan that you saw before. Aside from that, the plan remains the same as it was the last time we had seen it. I don't know if you want me to rehash all of it, or if you're pretty well remember what we have.
Let me ask the committee, would you like me to go through this piece by piece, or are we okay with what he's presenting? I guess we have. Thank you. Okay, and was he coming back, did you say, or no?
Roy is available for a question, sir, yes. I think he just shut off his camera. Would you like him to leave his camera on?
No, whatever he wants to do is fine. And the gentleman behind you, is he presenting as well, or?
No, no. The owner of the property.
That's right. All right then. Let me start with questions or comments that commissioners might have. And we'll go from there. Sarah?
One question, was any effort made to see if Willow Bend would adjust their parameters with regard to the size of the house?
It's deeded covenants, there's no adjustment that can be made.
So that's a no.
No, it's not possible.
It's not possible, or?
These are all required. They're actually in the chain of title for all of the properties. I imagine it'd be near impossible. I don't know what the votes would be needed to change the covenants for the entire development. I suspect it's quite an undertaking.
So I'm just asking, there wasn't a conversation, or there was?
No, there's no conversation because it's their deeded covenants, so.
Thank you.
But there's no, I hate to go into this rabbit hole, but to follow up on that question, is there no precedent for new language within Willow Bend for a smaller footprint? You know, to be real simple about it, if this is a huge piece of something that has had no changes made.
Every single house on that side of Shoestring Bay is under the same covenants.
No, I understand that.
Most of them are bigger than our house.
And that may be so, but is there, so in other words, the answer is no, there's no precedent for Willow Bend to consider accommodating
Like a waiver.
a waiver. Yeah,
We're happy to go and try and solicit a letter from similar to the homeowners association that. Yes, Shoestring Bay Association controls everything on Shoestring Bay Road.
well, maybe, see, I mean, the point here is not to be a pain in the neck, but there may be other houses that were there before that are larger, bigger, didn't conform to A, B, C, or D. Right now, they do, and just my opinion as one commissioner, it hasn't changed. It's the same square footage. It has the same problems that the original that was denied without prejudice had. So it confounds me as to why there would be a different outcome.
We explained that. We have to be here on an NOI because the existing order that we came before you before was no good. Because we got incorrect information from the conservation department that we did not need an extension. They did not understand the tolling regulations, so that's null and void. So we have to file a new NOI.
So you find a new NOA though that has the exact same footprint.
So again, we're happy to make an inquiry to be able to answer your question. What we're showing is the minimum size that's allowed under the covenants. And again, I can't speak from personal experience with respect to Willowbrook and Shoestring. It's my experience in other large developments that those communities are typically unwilling to vary these historic covenants, but you may have more knowledge than I do about this specific.
I'll chime in on this. I serve as the president of a local homeowners association here in Mashpee, and we've gone through revisions to protective covenants, so I know the process inside and out. Typically, the first thing you should do is contact the architectural review committee of that association and ask them for their input on the size of the home. The ARC, as it's called, may be willing to give a waiver. The ARC would then go to the board of directors of that particular homeowners association, and if the board was favorable, looked favorable upon the waiver, then the architectural review committee would issue the waiver, and then you'd be off the hook. So that's not as difficult of a process, at least for the homeowners association that I serve on.
Right.
I assume they're all pretty much the same. They all go into the registry of deeds, the covenants are all recorded, and you gotta live by them. But waivers can be granted from association to association, so that's something that might be worth exploring.
And it can still be beautiful, and it can still be, you know,
It's an
something.
option.
But it is an option. I would say the same for our.
Can I make a quick comment regarding the tolling period? We went through our town council and I dispute your claim that we were mistaken about the tolling period. Any permit that was active during the emergency declaration period qualifies for the tolling period. We stand by that. Our town council stands by that. You were not incorrect in that matter. So, point of clarification.
You can go through, I love you, but you can go online, it's clearly.
I did go online,
clearly-
sir, and I stick by my assertion.
So I'd love to come back then with that one, but
Well, that was your interpretation. It was incorrect.
Okay, let's continue with other questions or comments from commissioners.
So technically though, for us, we're back to square one with the NOI.
well,
And back
so
to
this
square one.
is an important issue. So if town council's position is that you tack on 460 some odd days to the end of the order of conditions, then that order of conditions would be good through 2022, I believe, 5 or something like that. I believe that's not correct, but can we please get your town council or give me permission to speak to town council and get town council's opinion, because I ran this analysis by several environmental lawyers, including town councils and other towns, and we drew a different conclusion. But that would be important for us to know. So with your permission.
I understand, there's no open order though, it was denied, correct?
No. So there's an order of conditions issued in 2020,
Oh,
which
like
would have been good for 3 years. But during the intervening period, we had COVID and there were several state COVID orders that told the permits, and it's a little bit complicated depending upon when the order was issued. And so in 2023, before the order would have expired, Mr. Bliss consulted with the town regarding getting an extension, which would have been the reasonable thing to do. And was told that you didn't need to do it because the permit was subject to the tolling provisions of the COVID, which would actually mean that the permit is still, the order of conditions is still valid today.
But that
order
order
of
of
conditions
conditions
needed to be
amended, right?
That's why I'm just finishing, so that the order would still be valid through 2025 next year.
Sure,
Based upon their map.
sure.
I think that that's not correct. So we were required to come in for an amendment because one of the conditions is the commission approved the general footprint, where you had to come in and present additional specific information. So it was the amendment that that was denied. We can't appeal a denial of an amendment. And again, we are now under the impression that because of whatever occurred in 2023, that the current order has lapsed, which is why we filed a new notice of intent. If we are incorrect with respect to the tolling, the application of the tolling period to the order of conditions, in fact, what we would do is we'd probably withdraw the notice of intent, it's up to the possibility, and file another request for amendment in order to present this information. I'm fairly confident that we're correct with respect to the application of the tolling period. Again, because I reviewed this with other environmental lawyers, and so, but it's important for us to understand that. So I'd love to get the official word from town council on town council's opinion of that.
Sure, I think in my mind, if this isn't, regardless of whether this is with the other order or if it's a new order, you're presenting a project that we've told you isn't gonna work because it's, and I hear you saying that you're not just showing the coastal bank. I don't understand how a plant community, how wildlife habitat, how any of the hydrology can happen on something that's developed.
So that's what you're here to decide. We haven't finished with our presentation. We're going to answer all of your questions. The project has changed. There have been changes to the plan. There have been additional mitigation provided on site. And at the end of the day, maybe the commission's judgment that the project is not permissible. Again, we have, from the applicant's point of view, a large problem, which is the commission had previously said that this is a permissible and permitted project and granted an order of conditions simply subject to the applicant coming with specific information.
To build
It
a
may have been a-
house, right?
That's right. So it was previously approved for a
A
house.
house.
That's right.
Okay, and you see a lot other things on this plan.
There was
besides
a
house.
buildable envelope. Thank you. Buildable envelope, that's correct. There's a square on the.
It was a buildable envelope.
And
It
everything,
specified that it was, you had an envelope to build within.
Yeah,
and everything proposed is within that.
Build,
it doesn't mean build out.
yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does.
It means to fill the whole thing.
Yes.
That's what a buildable envelope means.
The previous,
That's why
the
it's
commission
non-
that granted that order of conditions. When it was presented to a building envelope, which basically they're asking, can we develop in this entirety of this building envelope that they presented on the plan? The commission said, yes, we'll issue an order of conditions for that. With the contingency, with the condition that they come back with amended order to show the specific details. That's what took place. So the building envelope was expected to be filled. However, they see fit because that was what was approved for clearing. For a work limit, for allowance to build, whatever they were proposing in that building envelope. So the envelope was approved to be entirely 100% disturbed.
So when I've dealt with building envelopes on properties, it's building can happen within those areas. It doesn't mean that the entire thing can be built. And I'm not a lawyer, so that's fine.
Well, that was.
But if they created the condition to come back to show what was there, it to be approved, I would think that it's because they wanted to weigh in on all of the additions and appurtenances to a house, correct?
Yes,
Right.
yeah.
other questions?
Yeah, I have a clarification question on the plan. There's a heavy dark line and next to it, Angus is regulations 16 Mashpee. Define coastal bank, and then there's a lighter line that matches, that's, equally offset, so it's policy 91-1 state coastal bank. So we know that
So I
the
think that,
buffer defined Mashpee coastal bank is further out, so I'm just wondering what those lines are for.
I believe that you're a slightly different way of determining the top of coastal bank and under the state act and the state regulations. So those two lines represent those two different ways of identifying top of coastal
Yeah,
bank.
under regulation 16, we set top of coastal bank 1 foot higher than DEP's delineation criteria for coastal bank and the anticipation of sea level rise. If that's the rationale behind it. So our delineation of coastal bank varies from DEP, so that's why you see Concom, the chapter 172 delineation and DEP delineation. They're very close, because the difference is pretty.
Right, so how come the line then it cuts down through the middle of the lot instead of falling out?
I
Why you go across?
I can answer that. The reason for that is the top of coastal bank is delineated by where the slope goes to less than the 10-to-1 slope when it's above the flood zone. So that line that you see running through there is just where the point where the slope slightly changes to be a flatter slope. And that's why it was delineated that way.
That doesn't make sense if it's cutting down to the middle of the slope.
Right, it does.
Across, but
The distance between the contour lines.
Yeah.
When it's more than, it's 4-to-1 above the flood zone. When the contour lines, 1 foot contour lines are more than 4 feet apart, it's no longer a coastal bank. And if it's a 2 foot contour interval, I forget what it is on this one, it would be 8 feet apart. Once they're 8 feet apart, it's no longer a coastal bank. So some of that bank, those contour lines are tighter together and they loosen up on the northern side of that lot. The bank becomes less steep, and that's why it drops down.
yeah, it doesn't make sense where it comes down to here and then, okay, the width of the gradient is that much
Where
wider.
the slope changes, the top of coastal bank
Yeah.
changes.
So all these distances, but like if you took a circle, what we would do in a CAD program is we'd have a circle that was 4 feet in diameter, and we place it, or in this case, it'd be 8 feet in diameter. We place it in between the contour lines, and as soon as they touch, it means it's a coastal bank. As soon as you can squeeze that little circle in between those lines, it's no longer a coastal bank. So I don't have it delineated on the landscape plan. But on that plan, you can see the gaps here between the lines. They're getting fatter through here. So once it gets to here, see how thick that is between there compared to other places? So this chased the coastal bank, kept going up. It's what they call a run-up slope. So that continues to be a coastal bank until it no longer is tight enough for that circle to fit.
No, thank you for the explanation. I was thinking about for that one.
No,
The other question, I understand the planting plan has changed, a lot more mitigation and so forth. Has the pool patio house, has that been reduced from the previous
No,
application? That's still the same.
still the same.
Great, that's all I have.
That was a full question.
Can I ask Drew's question? Drew, have you commented on everything that you want to?
Not yet.
Oh, not yet. Okay, then maybe I'll wait that one.
Let me ask. All of the buffer zones that are delineated on these plans reflect the old buffer zones for Mashpee. We now have 75, 150, so 150 will go right off the lot, but my concern is, how was the mitigation calculated? Was it calculated under the old regulations or the new?
I'm not sure what's by new, you mean like the one we're voting on tonight?
Right.
Like full, I believe.
Right. I understand is that you have a new mitigation table that's not been adopted yet, so this was calculated based upon what your existing regulations are.
This mitigation is anywhere we could fit plants. It's not a specific calculation.
Okay, but you mentioned,
We've maxed out the.
I think, Adam, you mentioned.
I believe we have an approximate number of approximately 7,000 square feet is the number I picked up, like, you're the expert in this. 6,700 square feet, the mitigation on site was a number that I pulled.
Of native plantings.
Yes.
And what caught my attention in your presentation was that there wasn't enough room on the lot and you were going to look for other lots.
Yes, sir. So the assumption is that's not sufficient under your current regulations. If this was, again, this project is not a clean slate, but if it was a clean slate, that you would be looking for more mitigation. And so the idea was to explore offsite mitigation since we couldn't fit mitigation. So that's why Mr. Bliss has been in conversations with the homeowners association. Again, the idea is we want to do something that contributes to the interest related to this property. There is a stretch of Phragmites on the bay at the toe of slope. It's not on our property, so we need permission in order to do that. And the idea is to get permission to do a Phragmites eradication program as additional mitigation for the project. And again, it's a difficult process, but we made some headway this week with respect to finding the appropriate person. We got a kind of we got a green light from the property manager, but we need to go to the appropriate board or whoever the decision-making authority is, and I don't know.
This is something we haven't worked with before,
Yeah,
at least in my tenure.
Well, it would be, I guess, the best example I could come up with, like it's an example of the shellfish mitigation fee, which is kind of an off-site, outside the box form of mitigation, and that's kind of what they're describing as a possibility.
And I worked on projects where if we can't accommodate mitigation on site, that we do come forward with an offset mitigation proposal. Oftentimes, conservation commissions have their own projects that they're working on. And I have clients who will undertake to do that work, on a conservation commission sponsored project, or contribute a sum of money towards that project in order to account for any mitigation that we can't do on site. If I may, there's a similar dynamic with the Board of Health. I don't know if it's still in effect, but I know we've done it a few times where if you want to add another bedroom to a lot and you don't
have this, you know, you need 10,000 square feet for a bedroom. So if you have 35,000 square foot lot and you want a 4-bedroom home, there are unbuildable lots throughout the town, that you can purchase. Obviously, you have to make an arrangement with the owner of the property, but you can purchase, you know, 10,000 square feet of an unbuildable lot and get credit for that. So it's a similar approach, just a different way of doing it. So it's been done in town in different avenues.
And as I said, if the commission has a project that's targeted or is working on, we'd be open to any idea from the commission as to what it would consider to be appropriate offsite mitigation.
Let me touch on, Alex, you had mentioned, preventing in the construction phase of this, preventing the coastal bank from its intent, its resources, protection of wildlife habitat, hydrology. Construction projects can be lengthy. So from start to finish, how do you account for this coastal bank being protected and functioning the way it's functioning right now?
So I'll defer to Roy on that, but if you want a more specific construction methodology, we certainly can provide it. But Roy, do you want to address construction acts?
Yeah, so, you know, the way this was set up, of course, is, you know, the area, there'd be a hay bale silt fence, which is detailed and shown, encompassing the entire construction area, which would be placed first. And then just to note that this coastal bank is not functioning as a sediment source to downstream beaches. It's just a coastal bank due to the slope. It's got a phragmite salt marsh here. It's very inactive. There is no, it's covered in, you know, plants and leaves. The amount of soil that would wash off a true coastal bank would, you know, doesn't resemble this at all. So the downward flow of water, which naturally comes down this, would be contained in a hay bale silt fence, and any sediment from the open lot would be contained there. And then as part of, you know, common construction protocol, that would be cleaned out and monitored during the process. Once the retaining walls encompassing basically the pool area and the house are built, you've got a flat plateau, which is a site, and then that when that goes, has the walls poured and the hardscape in, at that point the dry wells are going to be installed, and they'll be, you know, typically what's done is silt sacks will be put in those, so any sediment from the above part of the lot that's washing into there and flooding will be contained. It's very standard protocol where, you know, it's part of any one of the conditions that no sediment will be allowed to flow down towards the wetland beyond our barriers. And then once everything's built, you actually have, you know, you have a house here in this, and all the water flow from the roofs and the areas of pool and everything are all captured in dry wells. So it's actually an improvement for downstream and erosion from what's there now. And that's kind of how we plan on handling it. You know, we're not subject to any, you know, all the regulations for big construction sites, single family house. And we feel we're doing as much as we can for that.
If I may also add, as far as the actual construction protocol, the first thing that would be constructed would be the retaining wall. From a practical matter, for actually, we can't build a house until, so that the retaining wall will go in first. Retaining wall would also have a membrane fabric to contain, you know, so, yeah, so before we ever dug a hole to build a house, we'd already have the retaining wall with the silt, and we'd also have the work limit. And as Roy said, this is a wetland strictly based on the slope from the floodplain. It's not a vegetated wetland by any other definition.
And we did provide a construction protocol in the notice of intent narrative, but it's not as detailed as Roy Mr. Bliss said.
That really wasn't the point of my question. The point of my question, and I understand construction protocol, I looked at that for years and years and years. While the construction is taking place, my question was, where is the assurance that Coastal Bank is doing what it's doing out there right now tonight? Where is the protection for wildlife habitat that is being altered? Where is the continuation of the hydrologic connection between the surface and the subsurface? Because the bank's being altered and it's being covered with infrastructure. There's a lot going on here, and it's going to be going on for a lengthy period of time. So I'm finding it difficult as a commissioner to understand the function of that coastal bank that's taking place right now and has been taking place for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years.
Can I try this? I'm just a layperson. I'm not an engineer or wetland scientist, so I have to review some of these concepts so I can understand these. There are two types of coastal banks, regulatory coastal banks.
I get that.
One that contributes sediment to a coastal beach, and one that's just a landform that provides essentially storm damage prevention. It blocks floodwaters. So this is not contributing sediment to any coastal beach. So it's simply a landmass that provides flood protection. Nothing we're going to do at the top of the coastal bank is going to impair the ability of that coastal bank to provide a barrier to floodwaters. It's not going to change. So in that sense, to answer your specific question, there's going to be no change to the functioning of the coastal bank as a result of the property. I don't know what you mean by hydraulic connectivity. It's not one of the values of coastal banks. I mean, I assume that, whatever groundwater there is going to continue to flow in whatever direction. Or I will confirm that nothing we're going to be doing is going to interfere with the flow of groundwater. And with respect to wildlife habitat, again, I'll do the further Roy. We're not in priority or estimated habitat for any rare or endangered species. I assume the wildlife that's out there is common wildlife. Probably will be temporarily impacted by construction for a short period of time, and then once construction is ended, they will return to the site. But right.
Just to add, we had a very extensive wildlife study done that was submitted in the previous filing. I believe it's on record with the town, basically saying there is no super valued wildlife here. We're not in a fish run. We're not in a GSP. In terms of groundwater, we're recharging everything into the ground. So anything below, the flow path underneath is going to go down to that, groundwater layer, flow right into where you vegetate, get water to the plants below there. So we're not doing anything different than really just building a house. It's not anything like, I think the way you're describing it, like everything below our area is going to die because we cut it off, which is very contrary to what is going to happen. And as part of an order of conditions, you can condition that, the area down there is monitored, and if there's any ill effects on it, that we could remedy that. But we don't typically see anything like that, as opposed to the house next door, with obviously clear cut the lot. There's no intention of touching anything down there except for our path. So I really don't see your argument in this case.
To follow up on Roy's point, there are 15 plus or minus homes already on that side of Shoestring Bay Road that have been there for 20 years. There's a one under construction 2 lots over that was approved. This is, that coastal bank has been altered, multiple times, and it's still there. I mean, the bay hasn't been adversely affected.
I've lived on the bay for a long time. It has been adversely affected.
Well,
I tell you. I look out that water every day.
most of those homes clear cut,
Enormously.
there was a lot less regulation back then. I mean, the house next door is clear cut almost to the edge of the,
Can we just stay on this project and not other projects? I mean, the fact of the matter is, this hearing is for 61. And it's not for the one next door or 5 houses down or 3 houses up. 60, like Machine Street.
I believe we responded what we feel is appropriate for the record on that. I mean, we're not here to, you can state what you believe, and as engineers, we state, our opinion. And it goes into the record, and then people can make a decision on that to basically, I'm not gonna tell you you're wrong, I'm gonna tell you my opinion, and just to banter back and forth about what something thinks might happen is not how these are worked out.
Okay, so moving on. Other questions? That's all I have. Any other questions from commissioners? Let me ask if there are questions from members of the public. Over here. Nobody online, really? Small Jim, I know our neighbors for the last time we heard this project. See a few people there. I don't know.
Is that a comment from,
Yeah,
what's the favor?
I'm asking Michael Sharp because he's the abutter next door if he has any comment.
Oh, good.
He's muted though. If he's not,
Yeah.
not gonna hear him.
No, they're going through computer audio, Dan, so it's not.
In this room, we can hear him, I think, if he just.
Mr. Sharp, do you have any questions? You need to unmute, you're muted, we can't hear you. You have to unmute your computer audio.
Trivia
He
question.
might not know how
What's
to
the
do that.
most comment on the Zoom? Larry, you muted.
Can't hear you, you're muted, your computer audio is muted. You need to unmute your computer
You don't
audio.
really just like
Yeah, little-
unmute.
Tell them what the
Little
icon looks like.
microphone at the bottom, just click it.
The
No,
microphone
no,
doesn't know to click on that.
Yeah, if you see an icon with a microphone with a line through it on your computer screen, it's usually in the bottom corner, bottom part of your computer screen. If you click on that, you see the image of a microphone with a line going through it. Can you see that on anywhere on your computer? There you go.
Thank you.
All right, time's up.
Finally, yes. I was concerned that you could actually hear my wife and myself talking, but no, thank you. We appreciate all of the comments, and frankly, we do not have anything to add apart from the trees, which we've already spoken about.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
I think the only other thing which was not covered was the access, the pathway from the property down to the salt marsh.
Right.
We limited,
Okay. Apart from that, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh, thank you so much.
So we covered the public and then you're welcome to you. If you have to add.
I did have a question just going back to the covenant because there was no mention of what the square footage of the covenant is. Can I ask what that is?
4 times.
And what is the proposed square footage of the house?
Well, there's a walkout basement, so in total, I think it's 45 something.
Okay. So. Is that just the house, not pool patio, or is the covenant just the house, not any emergencies? How does the covenant work as far as it just house footprints?
Yeah.
Not pool patio.
This house, but
So there is an opportunity to reduce it somewhat. Based on what you just said.
yes, I believe there's a few hundred square feet.
Okay. I just wanted to get clarification on what the covenant was. So, I mean, I'm not gonna go through all my comments, you all have them, but just a couple of things to comment on based on what was stated earlier. So I've heard a lot of references to the coastal bank, that it's just a bank and it's only critical characteristic and presumption of significance is a barrier, a buffer to storm surges, flood zone. And that there was a wildlife habitat study done, and it's not within rare species habitat, which would obviously be a non-starter if it were. However, when you read the regulation under chapter 172, for the critical characteristics and presumptions of significance for coastal bank, particularly the wildlife habitat portion, it doesn't mention rare species habitat. It mentions breeding and migratory habitat for local wildlife, not rare species. So that's an important distinction to make. And it seemed like wildlife habitat was being kind of boxed into a rare species type of setting. So I just want to make it clear, that's not one of the values. It's not relegated to just rare species habitat when it comes to wildlife. It's all wildlife.
Which is why I mentioned generalists and not just wild.
Right. I just want to make it clear that, it seemed to be presented focused on rare species habitat. So just to kind of expand on that. As far as the regulation also goes on to mention about the exchange of hydrology from surface water to groundwater. And I understand you've got dry wells and you are, focusing on controlling runoff. However, by placing a foundation, by excavating out a coastal bank, there's no denying that you are changing the runoff patterns on the bank itself. And that is one of the critical characteristics and presumptions of significance for a coastal bank is the hydrology, particularly coastal banks that abut salt marshes like this one does. So just to kind of highlight, what the details are as far as critical characteristics and presumptions of significance. I understand the regulation uses the word destroy, but the bottom line is that the basis for an evaluation is to make a determination as to whether the project is going to result in adverse impacts to the critical characteristics and presumptions of significance of the coastal bank, the values that the bank provides in terms of surface water and groundwater exchange, runoff patterns, and wildlife habitat. So it's not necessarily comes down to what destroy means, even though I know that's wording is used in the reg, and it probably should be changed, because really every standard of evaluation boils down to whether or not something is going to create an adverse impact and not really destroy something. So I think that's just what, you should focus on, not the word destroy, getting into kind of semantics there. I think the use of the word destroy probably, if you were to ask the creator of that regulation, he would probably say what I mean by that is adverse impact. So I don't want to get bogged down in semantics, but just to clarify that. And my last point, which is also in here, is that I know that there's been, the case made that there are several other homes that were developed along this same road, and there's no denying that. But I just want to point out that the bank itself is not linear and uniform from one property to the next along Shoestring Bay Road. It varies considerably from one lot to the next, and that does make a difference as far as what sort of degree of adverse impacts are going to happen on a bank, depending on how offset it is from the road. This one appears to be top of bank starting at 50+ feet from the road, and then it varies from there. Is it the same situation on the lot next door, or the one past that, or the one past that? No, it's not. It varies. And so that is another point to take into consideration, that the bank is not linear and uniform and the same from one property to another. And therefore that dictates how much disturbance or altering of the bank is going to occur, given how much or how little buffer zone you have to work with. And this one obviously has a very limited buffer zone, given the covenants and everything else. So that, results in more alteration of the bank because you have less of a buffer zone on this particular lot. So just a couple of points of clarification there that weren't really touched on previously. And that's why I feel that those issues should be taken into consideration.
And Chair Plummer, we're happy, again, I want to be clear, I did not specifically say because there are no endangered or rare species that you haven't considered wildlife habitat. I also spoke about generalists and construction impact on general habitat. The point being is that we do not believe that there's going to be an adverse impact on wildlife habitat as a result of this project. So provide you with some information and take that home. I'll defer to Roy on whether we're going to be changing hydrologic patterns. I do not know the depth to groundwater on the site, but we'll provide you with some additional information to speak specifically about that. I actually think that the word historic is very important because the first rule of statutory interpretation, and this is a statute, is that the terms are unambiguous. They're applied as written. It's unambiguous. It says destroyed, and that has a specific definition that would be applied by a court to that word. So again, that's what your performance standard is. If in the future you wish to change that, that's fine. But again, nothing that we're proposing is going to destroy that coastal bank, which is why we believe that the project does meet the performance standard under the local regulations for coastal bank. And we'll take a look at other properties that are developed and the variability of the bank and see if we can provide information on that. We've given us some homework, so I don't want to be presumptuous that there are no more questions, but obviously we're going to need to request a continue to be able to provide you with some additional information in that.
Okay, before I ask for a motion for that respect, I would like to put like a shopping list together, so that we know exactly.
Yeah, I've been keeping it, so if you want me to look at my list?
Sure.
First of all, I want to make sure that you've got a copy of the wildlife habitat study that's would be in this filing. I just want to make sure that's in there. I want to make sure that you have an electronic copy of the landscape plan because you didn't have that on the screen. So we'll do that.
We have it. That we
we
just
do.
didn't make it on screen, but
We need to. I'm sorry.
every commissioner has a paper copy.
Right.
This is just a luxury to see it on the screen. We're not required to put up there, so everyone's got a copy.
We need to somehow get an opinion of town council on the applicability of the tolling provisions to the 2020 order of conditions. And I'd be thrilled to be wrong. So, I mean, I don't pretend to know that.
If somebody get that on tape, yeah.
It is on tape.
Oh, it is, okay.
So I would be
Thrilled to be
I
wrong.
would be thrilled to be wrong about that. It makes it a little bit easier. Do you want more detail on construction methodology? We didn't provide a paragraph, but we can provide that.
No, I don't actually need that. I guess my question was just misunderstood, but.
Understood. We need to just clean up the plan to make sure that the path has been eliminated from, is it on the landscape?
Yeah, I see it on that plan.
It's on, all right, it's on the civil plan. We need to clean that up. We have the issue of the covenant and reach out to the HOA.
So on that, can I just interrupt you for a sec? On that, can you then make a note to yourself? To include. If there has been any precedent for considering waivers. It would apply to your
I don't know how I would find that out other than we could ask the property manager. I just don't know.
It would be
Yeah.
expensive, but there's been a lot of development in this HOA. So an architectural
That's
review
right.
committee, if they gave a
Yeah.
waiver for, say,
Listen,
X,
we
why
will
can't they
ask.
give a waiver for Y? So
They've
you have to
done
look
a
at
lot.
their record and see.
I wouldn't be the least.
I'd like to provide some more information on changing runoff patterns. And the exchange between surface water and groundwater. I think we can provide some additional information on that. And I'm not sure, we'll take a look at Mr. McManus's comment with respect to the variability of the bank. And see whether or not there are other examples of the construction of houses in a similar alignment on that coastal bank. Did I miss anything?
I'm gonna ask.
The fragmented, the offsite mitigation, is that something the commission is interested in exploring or not?
Well, get the
Were you
information. we'll-
comfortable with
we'll
that,
just
yeah?
Okay,
Get the information.
let's get the information because I'd
See
like
where it
to.
leads. You might be, we might not be, depending on what we get.
You want to see if, find out if there's anything on the house, if there's any interest in that.
Yeah, no, and again, I had asked if the conservation department has a project that they're working on that, could potentially we could contribute in some fashion to. There's something that they're working on, as we include as offsite mitigation, so we'd love to know that.
Yep, all right, if there is something.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of restoration projects, as you all know.
Yep.
Bog to restoration of cranberry bogs to wetlands, projects happening, and we also have our, conservation land donation fund. For improvements to conservation, so there's opportunities for.
Is that a precedent we've done before?
Not,
shellfish related.
No, yeah, understood, not off the top of my head, but I remember. And obviously, it would be something we would run by town council to make sure that we're not running afoul of anything. I don't see an issue with it personally. I always just want to make sure that, things are passed by town council when it comes to outside the box mitigation ideas. And we did that with shellfish mitigation, so there's an opportunity to contribute to a different type of project or a conservation fund. I would just want to run that by.
It makes sense.
Well, under the heading of full disclosure, I am not fond of the offsite mitigation.
Yeah, I agree.
There's just been so many problems in the past. My personal opinion, it's not the place for us to be going. If they want an answer, I'm sure there's gonna be an answer. Doesn't have to involve something which I hope someday will be repealed. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, specifically, I would want to ask council how you go about conditioning something like that, so it becomes a legally binding arrangement.
Yeah.
So we do it as a special condition in the order of conditions, and you need to complete the offsite mitigation before you get a certificate of compliance. So that's typically how it would be done.
Yeah, the concept of it is what I want to get legal clarification on.
Like, would it go into the deed as something they would, whoever purchased the property would have to maintain forever? Like, that's my question. Can you keep it with the property?
So again, as a special condition, you would be required to perform the work. I've not seen, for example, pragmatics of revocation, I've not seen a perpetual condition.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's usually a 3 to 5 year deal. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, you're getting perpetual home, should you have a perpetual, like. we
Well, it
planted
depends, I
trees,
guess
they're
it depends on what the form of mitigation is. So
Yeah.
using an example of fragmite removal, that's not a perpetual thing, that's
Right.
a limited,
Yeah. So, I mean,
project, so. in terms of-
Chairman, can I make a general comment? One thing that, for me, I've worked on a lot of different projects, and this one is a really, really tough one. It's not comfortable for me in some regards. But this one is like the only one that I've seen where we've had somebody invest almost $1 million in a lot with everything that appeared to be in place to be able to build a house. And it seems like there should be a way to come up with some kind of a compromise where there can be some kind of a big benefit. And I think taking Marjorie's comment about these things, these offsite mitigations. So one thing that is going to get done right is if the Conservation Commission has something that they could put money to, something to kind of make this not be an absolute, this guy's going to lose $1 million in an investment that look perfectly good. Because I mean, that's going to be nothing but trouble. It just seems like there should be, and maybe in this day and age, it's not there. There should be some kind of way to be able to get something on that lot so that he doesn't lose his tail and still be able to benefit conservation. Maybe this does get degraded. I mean, anytime you put a house on a lot, it is some kind of a degradation. There's no question, right? But there should be some way to just work something out so somewhere else that's being compromised in such a way that you can feel good about it. He doesn't lose all his money on this investment in a lot that clearly looked like it was permittable. And then you don't get all this stuff with lawyers and no offense, and litigations and all this, it just seems like there should be,
Yeah.
it seems like it would be too easy to be able to come up with that compromise.
I
That's
completely
a-
agree with you,
Mm.
and I feel like we're trying to say. We would permit a house, and it feels like nobody's hearing us say that. And instead it's like, but here's a house and a pool and a garage and a patio and all these things, and it's like, you're taking the entire extent of the coastal bank and altering it. Minus maybe 10% on either side, rather than leaving at least a portion of it to function as it's functioning and building a house. There's no even attempt to contact the covenant and see if there's a waiver or like work through that. I mean, why is it that conservation has to take the hit? Like the Shoshone Bay Association, like, I don't know. It feels like we're trying to say, yeah, we want to work with you, but wait, you're coming back.
Yeah, Steve,
Like, Willow Bend is part of Mashpee. Mashpee's not part of Willow Bend.
Right.
So can't we talk to them about
Let
perhaps
me pull this
modifying their
together.
rules?
Indeed, the whole purpose of the hearing is we're here to work with you. And
Right.
this is what we're doing.
Right.
You've heard our concerns. Get it? You've got your shopping list. You're asking for a continuance. So if the shopping list is complete at this point, I think we should move on.
Yeah, if they actually hear that we're saying about all the appurtenances.
We'll find out at the next meeting if there is a motion to continue. There might not be, I don't know. So we're set on your list.
Yes, sir. And if you have anything else, just please tell me.
Right now, I can't come up with anything, but if I do, and a lot of nights I don't sleep. Certainly get a hold of Drew and he'll get a hold of you. With that said, I would accept the motion.
Chairman makes a motion for 620 Shoeshone Bay Road, 620 Shoeshone Bay Road LLC for continuance to. I hear a date.
6:57.
On March 7th.
You can do March 7th.
Okay.
That's all I'm asking, March 7th.
Yeah,
or
March 7th
21st?
or March 21st.
I think most of this stuff can be resolved fairly quickly.
Okay. So March 7th.
March
Okay, so that'd be at 6:57.
Can I actually, Drew, I mean, how quickly do you think we can get town council to weigh in on the tolling aspect? That would be
Hopefully,
the only flying that one, I guess.
yeah, hopefully pretty quick. I mean, I really can't give you an exact.
Should we kick it 2 more weeks to be safe? Attorneys don't work quickly, sorry, Adam, but.
Do we need that from the DEP as well?
What?
Whether the tolling is working for the DEP?
There's a different tolling provision for state. Well. The state permits, this is a local permit, so I think it would be governed by town council rather than that DEP.
I'm pretty sure if I put an urgency behind it, I can get his opinion within 2 weeks.
Well, the only reason, I mean, you know, if our existing order is still live and in effect. Then we're probably gonna shift gears back to that order.
Sure.
And withdraw this NOI, so should we add 2 weeks in case we have to. You know, make that mechanism and.
And do you have a filing date cutoff for the March 7th hearing?
For the March 7th, that would be the Friday prior to.
Friday prior to it.
Um,
I'm bringing that up
Yeah.
because whatever we do get, it needs to be in the office by that Friday at
Yes,
any
correct.
time, so that all the commissioners can have that.
I'll get a hard date right
February
now.
29th, is it?
next hearing, the 21st, I assume, after the 7th.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, that'd be
21st.
21st.
It's not a very big window.
Okay.
What, do we want to do it 21st or how many?
Yeah, let's do it
on the
21st.
This whole thing.
No.
No, so that'll be March 21st at 6:54.
Okay. March
So,
March 20, so I'll amend the, motion to the date of March 21st at 6:54 p.m.
and that gives you enough time, because it will be a few days prior to the, we would have. our information. It's gonna be. It's gonna be before.
March 8th. Right. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the deadline, it's meant to March.
The filing will be the
Yeah, but
Friday
it'd be
before
the
the
Friday before,
21st, so.
To get that
Yeah.
information. 5 days
Yeah,
prior.
days, yes.
Yeah, yes.
we have had a lot of projects where things come in late, and it's not fair to the commissioners. They're all volunteers and they all have their work to do, and there's a lot of stuff to look at.
Understood.
Okay, so I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sandy. So a motion is made and seconded for the continuance to 321. Any further discussion? None? I'll take a roll call vote. Alex?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Aaron? Marjorie?
Yeah.
And Margaret, yes, as well. So that motion carries unanimously. Any further?
Thank you so much and good luck.
Thank you.
I think I made it. What are the chances? Is it going to say just have this all of the confluential things that happen to one owner, you know, between COVID and what's happening in Willow Bend? The original order. The original order was when? Yeah. No, tell me, I was thinking that. It's not something that.
They were the ones with last day.
No, I know.
Yes. Yeah, so I don't
Yeah,
understand.
keep moving on.
But I want to say it's.
I'm going to call the 654 hearing for 30 Sandy Way. Norman Shea, this is a proposed septic system upgrade, from Representative Shea Environmental. This is an RDA. Yeah.
And you have 30 seconds to make it. Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, this one's a little easier on the brain.
Sir, if I can have your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Carmen Shea from Shea Environmental, and I'm here to represent Kevin Down in Duart, right there in Sandy Way, Mashpee. Basically, we have a failed septic system, and what we're proposing is to replace a failed leach pit with a 11 by 28 3-bedroom leaching area. We also, in conjunction with that, because of the Board of Health bylaws as well, putting in a sledgehammer IA system within the existing 1,500 gallon tank, and which will also reduce nitrogen and phosphorus. And so we're here before you because we have setbacks. So the proposed SAS is 122 feet from the top of the bank. We are also 158 feet from wetlands to the rear of the property with that leaching component. So I think we're in pretty good shape that way. We're not in the flood zone, and the existing tank where we're working is 160 feet from associated wetlands. So we're kind of, we're working in a lawn area. I mean, it's already vegetated, as a lawn. It's going to be constituted as such. We're obviously making a pretty big improvement from a septic that's now being pumped every 2 weeks, unfortunately, at the expense of the owner. And we also are, installing the IA, which is gonna, that sledgehammer is gonna, help with, nitrogen and phosphorus for the wetlands. So I think all in all, we're making a pretty big improvement, to the situation. We're not expanding any bedrooms, we're not, possibly putting additional increasing flow. Just strictly what, the existing houses. Which has been approved by Board of Health.
And who?
Board of Health.
Oh, Board of Health.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to commissioners first for questions that you might have. Sorry.
No questions.
And from Steve, Sandy?
No, I'm fine with that. I just had a question about why the field wasn't staked out.
Oh, that's an oversight on my part. I kind of rushed through the project to try to get this to you guys as a last minute project where these people called me in a panic, and I am sorry. I also felt that the lawn area was pretty easy to.
Well, yeah, but if that hadn't been there, it would have been hard to determine.
Yeah.
when it was gonna go.
So that is, I apologize, and I'll try to do in the future.
Sandy's our state person. She always looks for the state.
I will.
Aaron?
Flags in the future.
Clarify that, and it's regulation 3 staking requirements. It doesn't require staking for leaching fields,
Oh.
and structure corners and terms
Oh, I.
for proposed structure. That could certainly be changed if you would like, but just
No, I just,
clarifies.
no, I just meant that, you
Right,
know,
It's not a requirement for staking under regulations.
That's in regulation 3.
That's 3 submittal requirements.
no, I was
staking
just saying, you know,
requirements.
because if it had been the snow.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had gone out.
Right.
No, I'm not,
Hey,
I'm not.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
I would've-
Just-
would've-
Like I said,
Yeah,
my opinion
maybe
is
it's something to look
Yeah.
at.
Monday.
Have staking, but according to our staking requirements, it's for building corners and structural
Right, okay.
elements.
Can I suggest the presenter gets extra points for that because he said, I'm sorry? Not once, but twice. The very rare thing to hear.
I'll note that. So,
I'm just taking a point.
Do you have any questions? And did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to say I like to hear, I'm sorry, and nobody argued that.
Carmen, I've got one question. When I was on the site, it was clear to see where it was. You say it's being pumped every couple of weeks. And you could see the hole, but yeah, they've been in and out. When you begin to leave that property, or at least go over to the property line and look down into the ravine, it's a pretty good drop off. Is there concern for breakout at all in that beach because of that drop off?
No.
Is there any kind of retaining wall that's gonna be put in, or did you contemplate that at all, or?
No, I mean, the leaching is, you know, at least the top of it is probably at least a minimum of 3 feet below grade. Actually, it's more, so you have a full span pipe. So I believe we're about 4 feet below grade to the top of that. So if you sort of, typically for breakout, we worry about it being 15 from a Title V standpoint, 15 feet beyond the corner or the edge of the field. And I believe that we can take that elevation and follow. So the top of the field is at elevation, it's like 2675, I believe. Yeah. So I believe we have, you know, close to 15 feet just to elevation 28, and the 26 is more like 25 or 30 feet away. So I don't think that you have any breakout issues relative to that, and Board of Health would have caught that as well, if they felt that
Yeah,
we were, you know, and that's the top of field below grade.
yeah.
So essentially, we're not, in my opinion, yeah, and if it were to have been a problem, we would have proposed 40 mil liner in that area that may have been a concern. But from Title V standpoint, it didn't meet that breakout requirement. I don't believe that that's going to be an issue even in the future. We're really staying at the same grade as the leach pit. The leach pit is definitely overflowed, and we've not gotten, you know, a breakout issue.
Yeah.
Granted, I know this is a larger footprint than the typical leach pit is. You know, it's also a 2-foot profile versus 6. So I think that, you know, I think we're in pretty good shape. You know, we're not, the bottom of this is still not going to be within 15 of, you know, of breakout in the slope itself.
Well, again, not knowing exactly where the field was, because it wasn't a state, not to the facility point.
But even
I
just
looked down the ravine, I thought, wow, I wonder how far up this field does go, but this is really dropping off here. So it's just something I thought it was worth bringing up.
I'm glad you think of those things.
Thankfully, the sledgehammer will reduce that nitrogen and phosphorus, so should they ever have breakout down the road, I mean, actually, these IA systems help the longevity as well of these systems, you know, I mean, that's gonna be.
And was that an 86? I remember that.
I
right?
believe so, yes. And I will repeat that, because he's the local distributor, so, you know, he helps me out with these things when we're putting them in the ground.
Okay, I don't have any questions.
No.
Questions from the public? Maybe online, out in the hallway. Drew, any comments that you have? No? Good. Yeah. I would accept a motion.
Chair, make a motion for 30 Sandy Way for negative determination.
Second,
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion of the issues on the negative determination? Good. Roll call vote, Alex.
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yeah.
Marjorie?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Informal, thank you.
mistakes.
Thank you for coming to the
I have
week.
no choice, so I have no excuse. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So, see you guys later. Yes.
Sandy, that was a very apt observation.
Moving along. Now calling the 657 Highway for 70 on the road, Patrick and Julie McNamara proposed raising and replacing the family building with a new IA septic upgrade, landscaping and hardscaping representative of Cape and Islands Engineering. This hearing is continued from 12/7/23 and 1/25/24. NOI DEP 433259. We have a request for a continuance to March 21st, 6:36 to allow time for applicant to address regulation 25. And is subject to coastal storm flow setback section 7 and minor and modifications. Questions on the request?
Sounds reasonable for me.
This would be the third request for this one, right?
To this day.
It's good though, because their project is going before the ZBA on March 13th.
Oh,
So
Probably,
it would make sense.
March 13th.
We'll keep hearing it on March 21st.
Typically, we've heard projects before. Is a good egg in the past, I don't know, maybe they're gonna change something.
That's true.
They'll probably continue to wait.
Never mind. It's not better.
Was the chair make a motion for a continuance to March 21st, or what's that? Yeah.
6:36.
6:36.
Second.
your turn.
Motion made and seconded, up to discussion.
Aaron, the second?
Yeah.
Aaron said, yeah. No further discussion, we'll call vote Alex.
Trying to get us.
Steve?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yeah.
Marjorie?
Yeah, these minutes have so many.
I
different
vote
people.
yes as well. So that
I
motion
need a
carries
napkin.
unanimously.
Get them right. I wrote them all down.
I really appreciate the consistency. It's so much.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Getting started.
No, no, sir.
Now calling the 7 o'clock hearing, 38 Quail Hollow Road, Joseph A. Tempest, trustee, request to amend the order of conditions. DEP file number 433138, the representative is South. And this is an amended order of conditions.
Self on that.
Yeah, I was gonna-
Mr. Self?
I thought you were Mark.
You know. Good evening, sir. If I can have your name for the record, please.
Mark Dig, Cape and Islands Engineering, presenting the applicant at 38 Quail Hollow to amend the existing order of conditions.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize.
So there's an existing order of conditions to build the house, the deck, the pathway and the pier. And the applicant is seeking permission to add this existing corridor. The corridor we've shown, we think it does meet the Mashpee bylaws based on the overall width and the percentage of that width. And the opening, we have 15 feet as well as the ending, then we have the allowed 18.8 feet based on the width of the property. It's centered on the dock, which is also centered on the approved path, so, you know, a portion of this vista is already covered on the approved path. You know, the vista intends to be completed in accordance with the Mashpee Vista Green guidelines. The stability of the bank will not be compromised as a result of the activity. No changes to groundwater or surface water quality will occur as a result of the work.
And the bank would continue to provide breeding habitat, stay covered, and food for wildlife. We also feel there's no impacts to the estimated habitat occur as a result of this work. The previous project did have a letter of notation, which included work actually in the pond where the habitat exists. So this proposal will not affect the BBW that habitat map resides. We propose this to, again, the Mashpee standards and also straddle that path and create the view towards the dock, which is desired. So we do believe that this amendment could be allowed against the performance of this action.
Okay, thank you. Questions from commissioners first.
So I see most of the trees are 6 inches or less, except the 24-inch diameter tree. Is that an oak or what type of tree species is that?
It's out there.
It's right there.
Yeah.
Actually, an oak. That is a black oak, I believe.
Yeah. That's the largest tree outlaw. So is that, what's the condition of that?
No, I can cover that. So for vista pruning removal, for vista pruning in general,
Yeah.
there is no removal of trees. I believe it's 4 inches of caliper or more. And then when it comes to those size trees that are under that 4 inches, it's only, I believe, 20% of those trees can be removed within the vista window. And that's it. So if there's 100 trees that are 4 inches and under, they can only remove 20 of them. That's it. When it comes to larger trees like that, anything over, 5 inches, they can only limb up to 30% of the branches per
Okay,
year.
so that tree is remaining and
That won't break.
it just be limbed up.
It might be limbed up. In this case, we would do an on-site and try to recommend not to. Most of the time, you usually don't have to with larger trees like that because they lose their limbs, their lower limbs. throughout the
Then all the other smaller trees can be removed.
Now, let me clarify. So, within the defined corridor that you see on the plan, up to 20% of the sapling size trees, 5 inches around or less, up to that can be removed. 20%, about 20 trees.
Okay.
So if you've got 5 saplings in there, 2 of them, 1 or 2 can be removed. Any tree that's larger than 5 inches in diameter or breast height, it's 30% of the branches per tree.
Okay.
Any shrubs within the corridor can be maintained down to a height of 5 feet. And all of these conditions are built into the order for every vista pruning.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any discipline lately.
It's, yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
And also
That's the way it works. And then they always, vista pruning comes with maintenance, what's called maintenance in perpetuity, so they can conduct the activity year after year. With, of course, departmental oversight every time this event, happens, and that's a time year restriction too.
Yeah.
November 1st to March 1st each year.
And on this site, I would imagine, since as you're going down to the water, there's actually a hump you have to go up and down. I would imagine most of the seedlings will be in and around that hump.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna want to have a view from their deck of the trees that are highest, and that would be the removal usually is what people do. That's where the higher point is.
So there's always some tweaking. This pruning obviously varies greatly from property to property, so sometimes it may be less than 30%, maybe a little more. Try to work with the homeowner to create a view, but not a wide open, clear cut view.
This case looks like a lot of beech limbs for beech trees.
So in the future, when they do their ongoing maintenance, every time they do that, they have an onsite with you guys first?
For the first 2 years, we have on-site, and if it looks like everything is going well, then it's noticed to us like phone call or email to let us know when they're starting, and we, if we want to go and check, or if they change contractors and they bring in somebody new who's unaware of the protocols, we make that known too in the order conditions.
So they have to check with you,
They have to check with us no matter what.
Okay. as long as
We
they're
do the
doing-
on-sites for the first 2 years just to make sure everything's in accordance with the provisions. And then
Okay.
after that, it's discretionary. If we feel that everything's going well, just notice if when you're gonna start. But more often than not, we do an on-site every time, just to make sure.
All right.
I think this was, as you were going down to the bank, there was a dead pine tree that looked like it had, like beetle holes in it.
Oh,
It was by that big stump that was there.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if that's in the plan to come out, but some.
That we would check out when it comes to
Yeah.
beetles, and depending on the variety, the species of the tree, when it comes to these beetles. When we see it on site, if it's dead because of the beetles, we'll assess it from there.
Okay.
If it is infestation from there, then we would do more than the assessment of that one tree.
Sometimes if the tree is impacted, whether it's beetle damage or it's dead, standing dead wood or snags,
Wildlife.
great wildlife habitat, so
Yeah.
it's not posing a threat to foot traffic, or the house.
Right,
It's just innocuous
yeah, it's sort
location,
of on that little.
then we would
Oh.
encourage keeping it as a wildlife habitat feature.
That tree is actually, I mean, it's riddled with holes, so the beetles have been in there.
Yeah.
But that tree, along with at least two, possibly three sapling white pines, are really right at the top of the inlet bank. And to take those out, you're gonna have an erosional situation going on there.
Yeah, so we would be
Suggest-
careful to select the
Okay.
ones that aren't gonna result in any sort of impact to bank stability,
The stake is right there.
Yeah.
Inlet bank.
Yep. Yeah,
And anything on banks, when I do any removals or give any permission, I always tell them you have to keep a 3-inch or taller stump. And that's solely just to give vegetation around it a chance to grow up in the growing season,
Mhm.
while maintaining the soil coverage for, the stump rots away essentially.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Any questions? No, Jim? You good? One last quick question I have, the window of opportunity to do this pruning is ready to slam shut. March 1st is the deadline.
Yes.
And this is not like an overnight event, I don't think. So how's that gonna play out?
depends on the speed they can get in touch with the
They're
contractor.
trying to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they understand that if
They
they can't
understand,
get
yes.
everything together by March 1st, this printing won't happen this year.
Right,
They know that.
because
So they're
it
gonna
wasn't
try to.
this storm that we just had. The birds are, they're on their way. They're already here. I've seen bluebirds. They're here.
They know.
Yeah.
They know the time of year.
Yes, the client.
Right. So let me pose this scenario. You get started and you can't finish, then what do? We just stop the whole process and wait until.
Wait till the next season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll know
So approval will be, well, it's not conditional. I mean, that's what the regs call for. It's not one.
They're built into a
that.
template.
Does that include March 1 or next to March 1?
No, it includes March
It
1st.
includes that,
Okay.
yes.
Includes means you can work on.
You can work on March 1st.
Not till then,
March 2nd? forget it.
I wouldn't recommend it, but it is. Yeah, absolutely. So.
yeah, I'll be there March 2nd. Standing around looking. Okay, I just wanted to get those words out. Anything else? Concerns, questions, public?
Public is dwindling.
Alex is always there. He represents a lot of readers.
I know, right?
With
Follow the rock.
For 38 Quail Hollow Road, Joseph A. Penfield trustee, to amend the order condition. With the standard condition of Vista improvement protocols, timing restriction for regulation 29.
Thank you. Second place. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion, further discussion by commissioners? We're all good. Who's volunteering for a second at Sunrise? Take a roll call vote out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know who I'm-
Yes, sir.
For the last-
I don't, yes, so the motion carries unanimously.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you.
Staff is about, it's on.
You got an extra
You
day.
guys need
Oh, we're gonna be up
chance to go.
All right.
Yeah, you got an extra day, Mark,
They
up to
can't-
29.
They can't do it without you.
No, they have been Drew has been on the phone with them way too much, so they are aware.
Yeah, they're abundantly aware.
Yeah.
And do they have to wait? Is there an appeal period on that?
And,
I think.
no, this is,
Well, they
the-
can-
Amended order.
this is
An
the amendment.
amended order.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought it was. I'm sorry.
No, that's the only way they could really get it in was the amended, because they already had an open notice of intent.
And there is an appeal period.
Yes, 10 days.
It's their discretion. If they want to report it prior to the 10 days, they're taking a risk that a butter can come in and make waves, but I highly doubt that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I just. Possibilities. Okay, moving on. 703 25 Marshall Road, the George Trust request for an extended order of conditions. File number 433069, representative is self. And we have a comment here that the applicant needs more time to complete the approved work under the existing order conditions, which are set to expire before the work can be completed.
So he had COVID, they had COVID tolling on this project. During COVID, they had contractor availability to the point where they actually switched GCs completely. And that held them back. Right now, they are almost done. All they have left is, I don't want to call it a pool, a dip pool, water body. So they just need to finish that. That's all they have left. Their order expires, I want to say it was right at the beginning of summer, June 5th or something like that. And they did not want to take any chances with having that expire and having to come back and redo the whole.
Get down to like
Yeah.
2 or 3 months.
Yeah. So he said, I'll just do this. They expect the pool to be fully done by the end of June, beginning of July.
So what's the extension period they're asking for?
1 year.
Oh, okay.
1 year. Okay. All right, any other questions or concerns on that? Hearing none, I'd accept the motion.
Make a motion, 25 National Trust, George, National Road, the George Trust, to extend the existing order conditions for 1 year.
Thank you, Steve.
Extended.
Sandy, Sandy's got it. Any further discussion on that motion? No further discussion? Roll call vote, Ellen?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion carries unanimously. We have one certificate of compliance. I'll just read it into the record. 120 Pond Road, the 120 Ventures LLC, to request for COC, give you can file on 0433185. Representative is Vet Tech 929. According to our agent, we don't have, there are no issues.
All right.
So you're all set with that? Good. Everybody in favor?
Totally.
Okay. Yeah, 6-0. Okay, our last bit of weakness here on hearings is the town of Mashpee, the promulgation for proposed amendment of town of Mashpee regulation relative to the wetland resource area buffer zones, naturally vegetated buffer strip, NBBS, and mitigation calculation chart regulation 12 mitigation pursuant to and in accordance with Chapter 172 of the Mashpee Code, Mashpee Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Sections 172 and 172-7A1, as amended on May 1st, 2023. Reading, to recall that. All right. We have received no public comment since we had the hearing at our last meeting.
No public comment, correct.
Okay, so as is, those regulations are set to go. Unless there's any questions or comments by commissioners at this stage. Do you have the wording through for that?
Second paragraph in blue.
Okay. So I'm going to accept a motion for this, and I'm going to ask the clerk to read that motion.
Proposed motion, move that the commission vote to amend its wetlands protection regulations consistent with the May 1, 2023 amendments to section 172-2, 172-7A1 of the Mashpee Wetlands Protection Bylaw by increasing the current 100-foot buffer zone for wetland resource areas to 150 feet, by increasing the current requirements of a 50-foot naturally vegetated buffer strip, NVBS, 75 feet in all sections of regulations. We said buffer zone and naturally vegetated buffer strip are currently referenced, and to modify the mitigation calculation chart in accordance with the buffer zone expansion to 150 feet under regulation 12 dash with mitigation in parentheses section 4 parentheses B dash waiver of requirements.
Motion made. Is there a second?
Second. We planned that.
From now on.
We're good when we plan.
Marjorie. Motion made and seconded. Steve first, Marjorie second. Any further discussion before I call for the vote? Alex? Yes.
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 Cindy? Marjorie?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Motion carries unanimously.
Good
Good
work.
day for all the zones.
We'll make the amendments and we'll send out, either print out hard copies for you to put into your binders, so you have all the updated information, or we'll send it electronically and we'll print out hard copies and print it to the March 7th meeting. Yep, you can print it on, so we'll print them out for you.
A new laptop.
Yeah, so you're gonna get a whole new set of regulations. I hate using that much paper, but it is what it is.
Yeah, there's been a lot of changes and there'll be more coming.
Or you can just cross out.
Lovely.
Okay, let's back up a little bit here into the pre and post hearing agenda items. The next on our list, well, let me do the approval of the minutes. The first set of minutes that were distributed is from January 11th, 2024. Voting on those minutes would be Paul Colombo, Alexander Zolo, Steve Cook, Marjorie Clapper, Sandy Godfrey. Did you have enough time to look those over?
I did. I'm very proud of myself.
We're good. Any changes, edits, misspelled words, punctuation?
I was abundantly thorough.
Yeah.
Abundantly.
Look good. Okay, then I would accept the motion to,
So moved.
thank you. Steve.
Second.
Beat all of you.
Tired of my game now.
You can tell we're tired when we fight over who's got a second Steve's motion. It is.
Okay, any further discussion amongst those that are voting? None? Okay, roll call vote. Alex?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yeah.
And I vote yes as well. Second set of minutes is from January 25th, 2024. Voting on those would be Paul Colombo, Alexander Zolo, Steve Cook, Marjorie Clapper, Aaron Copeland, Sandy Godfrey. So that's everyone.
Mhm.
Full house. Perfect. Everybody have a chance to read those?
Yes.
Another bang up job.
Another band.
Everything good?
Very thorough.
Nothing wrong?
No question.
Okay. Then I would accept the motion.
So moved.
Second. Good job.
Oh,
That was so
fast.
So much.
And there's still a lot more work to do. No further discussion? We're good. Take the roll call vote. Alex?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Aaron? Roger? I vote yes as well. So those minutes carry as well into the books.
All right.
Okay.
Second. Silly, I should have.
Before we go any further.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to back up now to on our pre and post agenda items, we had listed vote an endorsement of interested candidates for Conservation Commission, Russ Wilcox and Sarah Thorne. Brown. Is that how she pronounces it?
Rug.
Brown.
Yeah, that's how I heard it pronounced her last name. Rug.
Okay. So I have not filled out my evaluation form for Sarah, although I did fill out Russ Wilcox. So I would like to accept a motion, if there is one, to table the vote until we can adequately fill out tonight's evaluation forms. And then make the recommendation, whatever is made at our next meeting.
That makes sense.
Does that make sense to everybody?
I'll make a motion to table until our next meeting.
Okay, so we have a motion to table the vote until the paperwork is completed and next meeting.
Can I use the evaluation, Bruce sent out an
Hold on, let me-
evaluation, right? Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I don't
Let
have.
me get a second if there is one. Okay,
Oh,
so.
sorry.
I know.
Yeah, I saw that. For some reason, I didn't see the form in the email.
Yes.
Okay,
Is that it?
now, under
The
discussion,
form?
Yeah, but then.
Yeah, I gotta find it again.
I have to have an email.
Scroll to the bottom and it's really fine.
Okay. I'll wait for it.
so under discussion, I would like to at least start by saying,
I sent
in terms of the Wilcox interview, Aaron wasn't there and neither
I
was
know, I
Mashpee,
know.
so that's going to be a 4 commissioner type of review. And
Yeah.
I know I turned my phone in, I don't know about the others.
Yeah, yeah. I did.
And then we come down to Sarah's talk tonight, everybody's here, so
Yeah.
everybody can turn in their
Mhm.
recommendations. I'd like to have those go to, I guess, Dan, right? Do you have those now, Dan, for Wilcox?
No, I don't have them for Russ,
Who has those?
so I did not have those in my binder.
I didn't either. Nobody
No.
did.
I turned it in that.
I
night.
turned it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Emailed, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I got yours from email. So
Yeah.
I'll have to recheck them, or I'll resend them
So
out
digital.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then if you fill out yours on Sarah before the next meeting, I think we do,
No,
just turn it into Dan.
will do.
That's not filed.
So I don't get to vote because I didn't meet Russ.
Yeah, I don't vote. Don't worry.
You don't, okay. No, I'm sure I would go along with whatever the rest of the committee said.
No, you would not vote on the recommendation to move that candidate forward, but you can vote on the motion that's just made tonight. You
Oh.
table
Okay,
the vote.
Yeah.
Correct? I believe that's.
Yeah.
Right, according to Robert's rules.
Yeah.
Okay, no further discussion, Alex,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Aaron? Marjorie?
yes.
And I vote yes as well, so we'll take that up at our next meeting.
All the people so kindly waiting.
I'm going to that, I'm trying, I just.
You're doing a really good job getting everything else.
Best I can.
I know.
The next discussion item is water quality issues and initiatives. I had something to discuss, but I'm gonna let it go. Not that it's not important, but in the essence of time, we can talk about it at our next meeting. It's not critical, but I do want to bring it up. Nobody's clapping. I guess that's something wrong, but that's okay. The next discussion item is the NEMBA proposed loop trail creation at the John Austin Forest in the Mashpee River Woodlands. We did have our second site visit. I forget the date, but it was a Sunday morning at 9 o'clock. And there were several people that came. There was these folks over here were there. The mountain bike people came. There was somebody from the association, I believe, that was there. Dan was there. I was there. Aaron came,
I did not.
and that was it. So commissioner.
I came to the first.
Walked the entire loop, not just part of it,
Oh,
the
good.
entire thing. One of the people that attended was concerned about wetlands delineation along the loop of the trail. So while we were walking, I spent most of my time with Dan, and we were kind of scouting the area for indicator plant species for wetlands. We saw a couple of little things, but nothing that would
There was no,
indicate any kind of hydric soil, especially when we looked into the pit. Whatever that thing is, with the slide and the bucket and everything.
Sounds very exciting.
And I think we spent a good hour and a half, maybe, going through the entire parcel. At least when the trail was done. So I guess I'll just open it up for discussion amongst the commissioners at this point. How you want to proceed with that? What you have to say? Well, I'll let commissioners talk first, and then I'll solicit public comment. So if you guys want to add anything?
So. I do want to add something.
Super.
I do want to add something.
Okay,
So when looking at the fragmentation of the parcel. And putting in another trail. I think there's a better way we can go about it. I appreciate NEMBA. I want goodwill with mountain bikers. I don't appreciate getting yelled at by the neighbors. Just, I don't, like, you can speak to us more kindly. But I think we have the open space and rec plan coming up where the town will be working on getting an inventory of all the properties and understanding. And a part of that will be understanding where increased access is appropriate. And I think a way we can move forward where everybody can kind of be happy is through that process. Identifying where more trails are needed and where they're appropriate, and this can be like really reviewed then on a town level and understood with like everyone's input. That would be just something that I would be interested in seeing. And like table it until
I mean, it would take 2 years for this to happen, if this happens. I don't think it's a bad trail. I think it could be great to be a loop. I think we need to understand what properties we have and where we are willing to allow the fragmentation and where we don't want it to happen. And it could be that this is an appropriate spot for that. And other bigger parcels and chunks we would want to protect from that.
Right.
But I think there needs to be an understanding of what we have and where we would want to increase access or not.
Right.
That's my.
Any other discussion? Aaron, you were there last Sunday or Sunday or what?
There was, somewhere in the paperwork, there's somebody commented that there were, is it 50 trails? Dan, did I ask you about that? There was like, somebody said there were 50 trails. Was there a map anywhere of what those 50 trails were? Because I was having a hard time picturing what they were. Do you know what I'm talking
Right.
about?
If you go on to the bike,
Yeah.
the mountain bike website, it lists specifically, I believe it was 48 trails, and it gave the names of them.
Right.
And you could, I didn't go on the site and click, but I looked at the information that was provided by one of the neighbors. And apparently you can click on each one of those and see exactly what it is, and they've got them all color coded for the percent of difficulty, whatever it might be. But I believe that's fairly accurate, that there's 40 some odd trails.
Is there like a length of the trail? Because like some, I think I saw one that was like 500 feet. Like that's.
Right, all of the
Right.
ones that are listed do have lengths, and I had asked about the exact length of this particular trail. I know I was on 2 site visits, and both times verbally, it was mentioned that it's about a mile, maybe a little over, maybe a little under. One of the maps that I asked Dan to provide showed it at 4747. 4,747 feet in length. So it's really under a mile, if that indeed is.
Yeah,
correct.
they got back to me yesterday. At 0.9 miles is the official.
0.9, so 47 would be pretty close.
So it's, I was gonna say.
Yeah,
it's pretty
that's
fair.
actually less than 0.9. One of the things that I did, I mean, I was there twice, so I got a good feel for it, and I looked at a lot of maps and overviews. It is a site that is completely surrounded either with development or roadways, and it's relatively small. It's 62 some odd acres, 62.8 according to the assessor's card. When you add in the trail, and I use the figure 4747, and you look at trail guides for corridor of influence on either side of that trail, and you crunch the numbers, for mammals, it comes to 87.18 acres. For birds, it comes to 32.69 acres, and for amphibians and reptiles, it comes to 13.07 acres. So there's a substantial corridor of influence with a trail, as you would expect. I mean, I hunted my entire life, and I think 800 feet on either side of a trail for a white-tailed deer or even a coyote is conservative. They see you, they smell you, they hear you, and they're affected. Now, is it positive? Is it negative? Hard to say. Every animal's different. Deer love to come into your yard. So do coyotes. They're in my backyard every single day and night. I see them all the time. So I don't think the activity that I'm doing in my yard is influencing them. If anything, I think it's attracting them, maybe. I don't know.
They're
They love the
complaining
rabbits.
about
They
you.
love the rabbits that eat in the garden. But I did look at the influence. So there's a concern there. And based on the concern that you're mentioning with open space, maybe we should take a real good look at this. And I don't know.
And when we do decide where we want trails, members of the group to help us.
Well, they've been great in the past. I mean, they've done a lot of work. I know that switchback that we did over in the woodlands, it was all collapsing. It looks great, And they're in there, they're on these trails, they see things, they pick up things, they inform the agents about things that are going on. That's all good. And chapter 173 does charge us with protection of wildlife habitat. And we talked about wildlife habitat in another case tonight, and it's an important concept in conservation. So when I crunch these numbers according to trail guides, and they're all done by experts in the field, a long list of experts, there's a big influence.
May I respond to that?
Yes,
So you did the calculation was much larger than the acreage of the lot.
For mammals, not
Well,
for.
correct, for mammals.
not for birds and
But the
amphibians.
calculation I think you should have done is prior to adding the trail. And I kind of did that on my own here, and I think what you'll see is that the corner of influence, the entire lot is already influenced. There's a minor little space here.
Right.
So regarding mammals, the addition of the trail isn't gonna, they're already influenced.
Sure.
I don't think it's gonna impact mammals more than it already is. Now, granted, you have issues with reptiles and birds, but their zone of influence is much smaller, such that when you put that trail in, and we're talking just about say for birds, which is, I don't know, 30 feet, 60 feet, something like that.
Birds, according to the guides, are,
It's in that little
300
diagram, but yours.
three hundred feet. Oh, there it is right there. It would be 300 feet on the trail, 150 on the side for a bird.
Oh, really?
That's what it says, right there, 150.
Okay, yeah.
About 300 feet, and reptiles and amphibians would be 120.
Yeah.
That's
So what you're currently seeing on there is for mammals, which is 400 feet. And it really says
right.
mammals are already influenced there. We're talking about a third of the influence for birds. So that's actually going to open up, even with the new trail, a lot of undisturbed area, or it will keep it undisturbed, such that those animals will still have nesting habitats and resting habitats in there. But as far as mammals, the damage is already done, like you said, that's it's an island amidst development. And I would argue that if it's a 400-foot zone of influence for a walking trail, that those roadways probably have a larger influence. So,
I think so.
yeah, so a lot of these calculations are used when you're trying to figure out, you have a big expanse of open space, thousands of acres, and you're saying, all right, where's the best place to put a trail? I think those calculations work more in that situation. In this situation, the damage is done. They're already influenced. The mammals that are being influenced are frankly not that desirable. The deer population is well over the density that it should be. They're a vector for Lyme disease. Coyotes are probably the other largest mammal, and they're already habituated to humans. They're breeding under your porch and behind your garage. I don't think that argument flies as far as this parcel.
Well, quite honestly, I'm not arguing, I'm just stating
No.
the fact, is what we're doing. And you're right, there is a lot of influence with these roadways. But there's additional influence when you start fragmenting the forest with more trails. I mean, that's a given.
So
That's a given.
our initial proposal ran close to abutters.
Right.
If one were to look at that zone of influence philosophy, ideally, any new trail would be put closer to the property lines in order to reduce the amount of fragmentation.
Right.
But in a compromise to the neighbors, we moved it away from the abutters lines and increased that influence. So that wasn't our original thought process.
Anything else? Yes, true.
Just a couple of thoughts on the open space rec plan, and incorporating this. I think you know what you've got with this parcel. It's not really a matter of finding out where the parcel lies or where the boundaries are or surveying or anything like that. And my only concern with, opening this up to review for the open space and rec plan is that it really should be kept in-house with the commission, and I don't think it's appropriate to invite a bunch of
That's
outside
what I was
opinions. Huh?
No, so with the open space and rec plan, when we invite people from the rec community and that are trail users, ideally, once we have the inventory of all the properties and we will take a comprehensive look at all the trails, we would be figuring out, okay, like where else could be appropriate for trail. We're garnering public input and feedback
Yeah.
about where other trails would be appropriate and where people might want them. Right now, we have a group that came to us saying, we want to put a trail here, and we have someone else saying no. But if it's a public process where people can say,
yeah, you know what, like. Actually, when I'm out, I run into a lot of people. It would be nice if we had a couple more trails to ease foot traffic or whatever it is. If once we identify that through that process, I think that case can be made either way. So it would still lie with
Looking
you.
at like,
It would still lie with the Concom.
would you be scoping it out to the public for their opinion?
That's part of what the open space recommend does.
No, I understand that, yeah.
May I comment on that also?
Hold on, let me
Okay.
just finish up with this.
Because ideally, like you want all the user groups to weigh in.
Yeah, I guess,
Yeah.
I'd like to make a comment.
Hold on. Go ahead.
Regarding the open space plan, frankly, I think it's a shame that it's been 8 years since your open space plan expired. I've co-authored an open space plan in a previous life in Medfield, Massachusetts. It's not a quick process. I hate to say this, but it seems like it's just a method of kicking the can down the road. It'll be a minimum of 1 to 2 years to get an open space plan qualified for the town of Mashpee. I think that's a shame. So we, all through this meeting today, and I want to thank everyone here. The work that you do is amazing, but all through your meetings, you have people coming to ask you for stuff. And oftentimes the person who benefits from what you're going to give them is few people. We've come to you in a bit of a different way. We've come to you not asking for something. We came here with an offer to do something for the community, not for a few people, for everybody. So sometimes I think you do this so long that you always think people are asking things from you. We want to give you something. So I think sometimes a mindset change, maybe to look at it that way. And I understand you need to make a decision based upon what's best for the community. I lost my train of thought, but anyway, that's all I want to say. I'm
That's
sure.
a good comment,
Yeah, thank you.
well
Yes, sir.
worded.
So I think you folks are all missing the big picture here. This is a small thing. It's to use his words, the damage is already done. I think my 23-year-old daughter, who's very wise for her years, and take issue with that. Because she's looking at the impact, and she's gonna have to live with the impact that our generation has brought to this planet. Every day we read about the things that are happening everywhere in the world. Wildfires, polar bears that can't feed themselves. I mean, it goes on and on, the damage that we are doing to our world. This is a small thing where we could say, let's look at how we can do the small things to minimize our impact. Now, this is 63 acres. It's not a big piece of land. However, the impact that they're asking to do is going to impact the entire piece of all of that 63 acres. If you look at the map, it's all through there. So it's going to make what's an island now an even smaller island. So this is an opportunity, I think, for you to step back and say, what are the small things that we can do to leave a better world for our children and our grandchildren? Granted, it's a trail for the woods, but it's an impact that we're having. And we have to start looking at our choices that we make. You know, granted, a mountain bike trail is great, and what don't get me wrong, what this organization does is, they do great stuff, no question about it.
Yeah, I just want.
But we have to be,
This is
can
more
I
than
finish,
a
please?
trail, it's
Can I
great for
finish,
everybody.
please? Can I finish? I'm respectful of your time.
Sorry.
The thing of it is we have to start looking at the impacts of all these choices, and this is what you folks do. And God love you. I mean, to sit through these meetings night after night, month, 2-3 times a month, that takes a lot of dedication. I gotta hand it to you. But you folks are making decisions that are gonna impact people. Not tomorrow, that's years down the road. But I'm looking at the world that we're gonna be giving over to my daughter, and I ask myself, what are some, I'm not an environmentalist, don't get me wrong. But it's a small thing.
Okay.
So. 2 thoughts on that. Do you have a trail off your property?
I do, it was there before we bought the house.
So you have a trail off your property going into this property that is maintained because if it was there before you bought the house and it's still there, someone's maintaining it. So you have a trail
We don't touch it, nobody touches it.
We don't maintain it, we just walk down it, that's all we do.
Walking on it is your way of
Okay.
maintaining.
Yeah.
I will also say that if people do not have access to the woods, they have no chance to want to protect them. If people don't have experiences in nature and they don't have an opportunity to connect with nature, then there is no chance for that world to be saved. So ideally, we want to get a grasp of what we have and where trails are needed and where we can expand or not. But I am not here to limit people's access to open space. That is not on my agenda at all. We need more people getting out there and experiencing it, and ideally not on dirt bikes, on mountain bikes or on their feet. So, I would argue that access is needed in a lot of places. So give us a chance to understand what we've got and we can go from there.
Yes.
I know you just put in building, just said, but you're talking about your kid, your daughter. I've got an 11-year-old son who's going on 12 and he likes video games, but I run
That's
trails,
right.
I run trails in the woods. That's kind of how I maintain my sobriety. That's how I maintain my sanity. And I brought my son with me and I've got him away from the computer screen and he runs the trails with me. So having another option of a trail in Mashpee would be really good for us. So, you know, you have to be able to see it from both sides, like you're protecting for your kid and I see it differently from mine. So there's gotta be a way to.
But the answer to that point, there is 48 trails.
Right, but what are the length of those trails? 'Cause I run 3 miles in a clip, so if they're 500-foot trails, where's that gonna get me? You know?
I can provide that information.
Yeah, but that, I would love to see that, because that guy, somebody who sent from that. That's all.
Okay. From the commissioners, any other discussion? You want to, is there a motion to proceed on this, or do you want to just do further discussion?
What would the question be, approve or not approve, or?
There is no question of discussion. It's listed as a discussion for the proposed loop trail creation at the John Austin Falls. It doesn't say that we would vote to accept
It
it
doesn't.
or deny it. There's no,
Is it under our purview to do one or the other?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to take a vote to accept, you can, you want to table it, you can, entirely up to you.
so I'm open to whatever motion is made on the table. Based on the discussions we've had.
Well, I thought it was terrific. I was at the first one. I really love everything about what you get out of it. I also know from overzealous neighbors that I've had that I've said, could we do this somewhere else? And I'm sorry that that's part of life, but it is. So I'd like to think about it. My position would be, I would like to hear from those of you that were there and heard the neighbors.
Sandy was on the first site visit.
You were on the first one too, you know.
And Steve, I think, did you walk it?
Yeah, I walked it on my own.
Yeah.
So, just my comments on this is I like Drew's comment to saying, that the staff would inspect the flag in prior to any clearing, make any changes. I think the trail has moved since the initial layout. And then, so I think there's a good compromise position here. And then the comments from Alex, which, and Aaron saying, okay, and I think Drew had said it previously, that this was a piece of land that was donated to the town and for town access for all people to enjoy. And there's already the path, so they expand the path to expand use for everybody in town and the residents of Cape Cod. So I think this is a good compromise position where the trail was moved away from the Clark's house. It's gonna be a well-marked trail. The staff's gonna work with number on the trail and and I think it provides access for everybody. So I think this is a good compromise position to move forward with this trail. It benefits everybody and, it's a compromise position. That's my thought on that, so, you know, I would make a motion to approve this trail with the comments of, you know, to work the commission, you know, and conservation staff, you know, to make changes to the proposed trail necessary and monitor it.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve the trail with the conditions of conservation staff. Flagging and monitoring of the clearing. Is there a second here? There's a second, so the motion made and seconded. Further discussion?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, that's why we're discussing.
Because I think I've made it a couple of times.
You have it on the level.
Also one of the walk. And I'm sorry I didn't ask the question then, but assuming all goes well and the neighbors get used to it. So do you guys, have you already offered volunteers to help watch over, monitor it and keep it from getting too busy?
Exactly, so the app that we talked about that had 48 trails. Since unfortunately, budgets in a lot of the town communities don't have the ability to have their DPW or Conservation Commission people go out in the woods and clear trails, or even field calls where someone says, there's a tree down on the big trail, can you go take care of that? Our organization uses that app and we crowdsource reports on trails. So on our Facebook group, we have about 2,700 people, and we've tried to train them that when they're out biking or hiking or trail running, and they see a tree down, we've educated them on how to use this app. And I'll get an email that says, here's the trail. You click on it, it shows me on the map, and there's usually a description of what needs to be done. Yeah, this is a big one, you're gonna need a chainsaw, or. So we already have this system in place where we provide maintenance for most of the conservation areas on the Cape.
At least awareness.
Yeah, yeah. So we're already doing that on all the trails in Mashpee River Woodlands. The stuff that, you know, DPW and conservation doesn't get, the stuff that's usually a little farther away from dirt roads, we'll go take care of it.
So you're gonna make the trails 4 feet wide?
Hold on. Roger, is your question better?
Well, I'm trying to understand because I'm very, very sensitive to just dealing with it, not taking it down the road.
Right.
And I'm a dog lover and I'm out in the woods and any place I can find, walking him and running with him and enjoying it. So I'm feeling like I get the best part of it, you know? But I'm unclear as to how it is hurting the neighbors, other than that one guy that I met who was very vocal. Which is fine.
Did you
So I
all
thought,
get the PDF that explains what happens when a trail's cut?
We're in discussion amongst commissioners. She asked
I beg your
permission to ask a
Yeah,
question.
Okay,
That's why.
I thought you were looking at me.
We have a motion that's on the table and now it's being
Gotcha.
discussed by the commission. So
I mean, that was the only experience that I had on the trail with neighbors. It wasn't particularly pleasant, but he has a right to his own opinion.
Well, can I ask what the concern was? I missed that.
It was just being so close,
Oh, okay, okay.
just being so close, and I said, oh, I tried to get along with them. Next time I'll bring my dog and. didn't go.
Was the trail moved after the first day?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was.
Right, the trail was moved away from, it was probably that guy's house,
there were two loops that were cut off.
yeah, I think it was,
I believe it was
with one of those,
200-foot cell.
I think they took his advice, or, and we moved it, right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Okay, any other questions by commissioners on the motion? Do I have anything? No, I've listened and, you know, I have a motion. I'm ready to call for a vote if there's no other concerns. No others? Okay, I'll take a roll call vote on the motion. Alex?
Yeah.
Steve?
Yeah.
Sandy?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Richard?
On behalf of my dog, yeah.
And I vote no, but the motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for coming in.
But I do think that all three of the trails should wait until we have a public process to go through.
For a public process.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I thought you make good points, but I'm dying to know. Is the clerk gonna ask you why you voted no?
Thank you.
The only
Thank you,
reason why I voted
Oh,
yes.
thank you so much for coming in and for what you do.
Thank you.
So it was approved, you should be happy. After 3.5 hours.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Talking about other trails, I did have something coming to me today that's gonna be going out to all of you tomorrow.
No, no.
For another trail?
Oh, this is something that's gonna have to be hard pull effect. It's about 10 miles across.
Where's
Oh.
that?
And I said it's right in my backyard.
I'll try to put it in touch. So yes,
I don't know.
I want him to be a part of the open space and rec plan, like
He-
committees. and-
he's having, so part of his email was he is completely booked solid for the next 3 months, but he wants to attend Conservation Commission meetings, hearings,
Who's he?
Colton. He's the one proposing all these.
Oh, the
trails.
kid.
Came back a while back.
Okay.
So he wants to be involved in everything, but he wants to hear all the comments and everything, get the most best possible project, and also even see if it is feasible going forward.
Right, and that's not, that, I think I would encourage that to wait until the open space and rec planning process, because that's where that kind of thing can get fleshed out and then funded, and then maybe we can have like bike trails on all the roads that are dirt roads.
And
that
his
are
big
blocked.
thing was like mothers with kids or fathers with kids in carriages, pushing them through the woods and having a set trail where they're not gonna, hit a
I'm
pothole.
glad he cares about it.
Well, not just, yeah.
I mean, I'm the one in the
But
woods
that
with
is,
the carrot,
that is
I
his
know.
big thing.
Where did you say it was, Dan?
His big thing is making sure families get the environment.
No, I'm sorry, where?
It is everywhere in town.
Oh.
It is from the north, very northern part of John,
Oh,
Yeah.
all the way down into parts of Falmouth.
Well,
Holy moly.
it should be that you can, kids from
Connect.
all over Mashpee can get to the beach
Yes.
safely on a bike, and you can't.
What about kids in the high school, on a
Yeah,
bike?
yeah,
Like my
that's what
kids
it
can't walk to school, like.
Right,
Crazy.
so if they could all be connected, it's brilliant, it just needs the right mechanism, and the mechanism is the open space and rec plan. Like, that is the process.
And for my aspect, the biggest point from my aspect is gonna be the wetlands, because a lot of these trails, I don't wanna give a percentage. If I had to guess, over 50%
Just look at the town.
are right next to wetlands, or in wetlands, so
Well,
that's.
and a lot of the old dirt roads are like cesspools for who knows what, cause it's just like.
Yeah.
The erosion issues and the parking and like the, where it's like holding water for weeks, like,
Go down to Willsworth Road.
it's.
And
yeah,
it's a difficult situation, because obviously you have illegal traffic from ATVs and off-road vehicles.
and
Well, at the same time, you have USGS and state and federal traffic from maintenance of wells and.
But so like, if
trails.
that was
It's-
paved, if those were paved bike paths.
That's-
We could do that.
Yeah.
Because. Like, a truck can drive down a bike path once a day, and it's not at the end of the world, people can pull off and wait a second. It happens, I've seen it, I've been on the Chevron Sea when trucks are let to come down. Right, so it's like, if that was an actual paved bike path, there wouldn't be the dirt bikes and ATVs, because they don't want to be on a paved path, they wanna be ripping up the dirt.
Which gets in the open space and rec plan, so that has to be public involvement if we're talking about paving anything in the woods.
Right, but they're all paper road, they're all not even paper roads, they're old roads. They're roads, I know, but the legal ownership is a right of way.
It's. Well, you're right, you're all ancient, right?
You-
Ancient ways.
Why did you not
That's
down?
also now tomorrow.
Oh, God,
And
all right,
it's-
let's move on then.
I'm so.
Anything else we got?
dirt bikes, I'm so over it.
Okay.
Okay.
Use my motion to adjourn.
Okay, and that is.
Okay.
We have one more item, guys. Yeah, let's do this.
So it goes in order.
Oh, yeah, that's
One
nice.
above, one lines.
Okay, so I'll say this while signatures are.
Okay.
As you saw tonight, we had many continuance requests, and they all focus on regulation 25, land subject to coastal storm flow, section 7 setbacks. And you all know that we have been discussing regulation 35 to C7 for close to a year, if not longer. You all know that this went to town council, and town council ruled that the wetland setback in regulation 25 is an applicable performance standard. People can argue with that, or they can agree with it, or they can disagree with it. It's a legal opinion. Legal opinions are just that. They are opinions, but this is the town's legal counsel. And until I hear differently, as chair of this commission, I will continue to enforce regulation 25C7 as an applicable standard. I'm not telling you you have to, but I think at some point, this commission has to take a position as to the regulations that we're working on. There were a couple of people here tonight, and they're asking to delay. And when I sit and talk to legal counsel and the town manager and the town planner and the conservation agent, what I'm hearing is move faster. You know, I'm hearing people say move slower, other people say move faster,
Yeah.
clean up the language, make it more appropriate so that we don't have these issues. But all we have to work with is what we have, and it's the current regulation 25 and a legal opinion on the setbacks within that regulation. So for one, I will vote according to what those standards are. And I'm not telling you how to vote, but I'm just telling you what my position on this is. And we are very active in regulation 25 edits. In fact, the next meeting is February 29th at 2:00. To me, my impression is that should be our last meeting. Our draft is extremely close. There's probably a handful of issues that need to be ironed out. And we should be able to bring that to the commission at the March 7th.
Oh, good.
meeting, so that you guys can all look at this thing. I hope that there's plenty of input and discussion.
We're gonna have a meeting just on that, though.
Well, no, that's 7. We got hearing.
Oh, no, we have regular, that'll be a regular.
That'll be down here under discussion.
Because I think, I mean, it's,
I know.
I'm glad to hear you putting a pin on this,
That won't
because
be as long.
at the first meeting I came to just observing. So it's been well over a year. This was something that I thought was very important. I knew you were digging into it and all the amendments, et cetera. But,
Yes, it's-
I'm with you. I mean, I think we have to put our stake in the ground. So I'm hoping that we can have a meeting just on that, rather than trying to include it. Like, if you brought it up right now, I love you, man, but I'm out of here.
But I do want to at least get it on the table.
Yeah.
So the other thing we can continue doing, or not continue, consider doing, is doing more meetings. And doing the pre-post hearing agenda items as.
As I mean, their own meeting.
As their own meeting,
Sure.
to get updates on restorations, on talk about water quality issues, like do all of those things. And like a quarterly meeting on Zoom,
And new issues, yeah, I agree.
and then we can see everything, and if we did it on Zoom, like,
That's a special meeting.
it would be
Instead of
additional.
the standard meetings that are on the calendar for 24, make it a special meeting.
We could establish quarterly meetings, which are
Yeah,
quote unquote without hearings, just business.
just business.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Quite honestly, there's a need for it because, I'm retired. I put a lot of time into this, probably a typical work week's worth of time every week. And I feel as though we're not keeping up.
And your hair's getting brighter.
Even longer.
And I will say, while regulations are being drafted and while the state is doing theirs, we are gonna get far more applications coming in. Because people are gonna try to get.
Oh, I
not
think you're
people-
so right. The word's getting around.
But there's
Do it
already-
now, do it now, do
I
it
will
now.
say for firsthand, the word is beyond around. It's already around.
Oh,
People are furious, not with us, yeah,
Oh, yes, they are.
but with the state, they're really
Right.
mad because of what they said tonight, the state's putting a kibosh on expansion of footprint.
But
So-
really,
That's a big deal.
the only thing I like, if that was more of a dialogue, would have been said, it's like, it was being presented that not expanding the footprint is a threat, and is like really like a dire situation.
Well, yeah, like you can't put a house up on the same footprint.
But isn't a flood and isn't
Well,
rising
they don't
water
know what they
a
want.
bigger threat? Like, I don't get,
So far from what I'm gathering from the legal community, from the consultant community, from the homeowner community, is that they're not directly saying they're upset with the regulations. They're upset because they, what do they call them, study groups they have with the state. Included none of the stuff that's in the regulations. The state, they're claiming that I have not confirmed or denied this.
Right.
They're claiming the state put it in without them knowing, which is not against the law. Because it has to go before public comment as it is. at the state. So that's what they seem anyway to be more upset about. I think it's just they don't like the regulation.
Right, well, as these homeowners were saying tonight, they felt that they should be a part of the bylaws. It's up to them.
Yes.
And they will be with stuff like that because there'll be public comment when it comes to.
Well, right, if they can do it then, but
Yeah, exactly.
they can't expect to come to every meeting when we're.
Well,
trying to
they're
figure it out.
entitled to go to any.
They actually have to if you're gonna be involved. in
Not
it.
on the bylaw when we're.
Yes, you
That's-
know, bylaw
that's
committee,
what's
subcommittee
so
meetings, they would be
difficult.
entitled.
Yeah, but how do
to
they
sit
know?
and listen.
Does that get?
They would have to inquire, you don't have to post an agenda,
yeah.
it's a subcommittee, so they'd have to inquire as to when.
When it comes to things like that, it's their responsibility. Right. Yes.
But I will say that, you know, the state does what the state does, and to get a waiver from the state is like near impossible. But regulation 25, if we were to rework that here, somebody needed a waiver to expand the footprint. That's a lot easier to get on a local bylaw than it is on a state regulation. So,
Yeah.
you know, there's pluses and minuses to everything, but we're all seeing what's going on here.
Oh, my
A, we have
God.
a mess, our water is gone,
It is.
literally gone. And B, we have climate change, and nobody's denying this anymore. Just stand on the shore and watch the show. It's there on every storm. It needs to be addressed.
I know.
Regulation 25 from 2005 is not working. It's a mess, and we all know that.
Well, and
We're cleaning it up.
of like, just let the state figure it out, and let them do whatever they do. How did that work for septics?
Right, so yeah.
Like, how did that work? Like, it's not working.
You know
I
how
don't
it works
think we should
well?
wait till the state does
It works as an incentive
I mean, you could.
for those who are pro and those who are con to come in
It's,
and do
flood
something.
already changed.
because
Major hurricane.
I spent enough time in the legislature and know
Yeah.
the heavy is in stuff, everyone's always saying it's about money and fundraising. It's also about strong arming, who's got the best
I mean, things change.
lobbyist, who's got the most vocal
Taxes,
So-
Jim, you're
group
right.
of citizens.
Well, plan if you guys at
This
the
is
end of the
no
month, you're
different.
gonna.
We have one more meeting, we
One more
can.
meeting, final draft, and then you're gonna present it
Someday, Paul,
to us
won't be
for,
tonight.
Maybe
because
it'll be
I'm
at the
too
second
tired.
meeting, I don't know.
to approve and then.
But I wanna know.
Public comment. and-
I wanna
Public comment,
talk about
public
this
meeting, all that
last
Yeah,
vote.
just like. what we said.
And in the state public comment,
Oh,
everyone's
yeah.
aware that this is back.
Angry, and I wonder why.
No.
Same reason, right? I mean,
Oh, they like really.
good people not only can disagree, but they can get very passionate about it, and so.
See, that's why we can't wait, because this is.
And that's,
We need to go through town meeting. to
Yeah,
check
they're gonna make
regulation.
comments here.
yes, because the bylaw change about the. so we can't-
Yeah, but when we see people going up,
Then we put
No,
the
that's-
plan in.
Right now,
What we're.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Right now, look at.
right.
Does not go to our town.
That's home rule. 25 is home rule.
Fortunately, my neighborhood in New Seabury,
Home rule.
It's a red.
everybody
We
wants.
change that any way we
We
want to
want
change
a
it.
walkway,
As
we
a
want
subcommittee.
a roadway, we
Before the
want a
commission.
bikeway, we
That
want.
was sidewalk on my street.
You go
My feet
to
can't walk
public
to the bus
hearing.
stop now.
Yeah, you listen to all of what people have to say. If there's some very credible things that people have concerns about, and the commission is willing to go back to work and re-edit that
I want
regulation, we would. If we feel as though it's not credible, then we go for promulgation. We send it over to town council. He has to review it to make sure that everything we have in there is legal. And then we would take a vote, like we did tonight, to promulgate.
It won't be, it would now be, 150 foot like we did with the town.
No, the reason we had to do that with the town is that's the bylaw.
Yeah.
This is
Well, yeah, that's
regulation.
So I'm not in the review bylaw committee, so I thought there was some bylaw being called.
Yeah, no, it's just
Oh.
regulation.
If it's just,
Regulation
yeah,
25. That's
the
what
bylaw not being.
Very
altered,
interesting
we're not-
regulation.
The bylaw, and that would require a 2/3 vote.
Okay. I thought differently, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't wanna.
I'll
be
make a motion to
committed,
adjourn.
but- No.
Yes, we have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Let's-
I was gonna say.
No discussion on
No
debt.
discussion, all
All those in favor? Everybody gets unanimous. Thank you. I think that's the record, you guys.
Nicely done, Mr. Chairman.
17, 18.
It was a long,
Paperwork.
interesting, crowded,
I will shoot you
very
over tomorrow morning.